This meeting of the Starkville Board of Aldermen will now come to order. Please rise for the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance, after which Alderman Vaughn would like to yield to Reverend Lindley to lead us in a word of prayer, and we will observe a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Most gracious God, running a city is harder than it looks. We thank you for people who are willing to do that work. We ask that you give wisdom to our leaders, protect those who protect us, and help us all work together to make this city a place of justice and peace that you know it can be. We pray in your name. Amen. Amen.
You have before you a copy of the written agenda. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda as written? Alderman Maynard.
Thank you. I'd like to add an item to the agenda. It'll be under Board Business, item G. It will be consideration of an encroachment agreement between RM Development 1 LLC and the City of Starkville for the construction of a landscape median for a monument sign.
Proposed revision by Alderman Maynard is to add an item G under Board Business, the consideration of an encroachment agreement between RM Development LLC and the City of Starkville for the construction of a landscape median for a monument sign as presented. And that matter was presented on the table. Alderman Maynard,
Yes, sir.
Is that your proposed revision?
Yes, it is.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been added to the agenda. Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions?
Yes, sir, Mayor. Under public appearances, 7, I'd like to move municipal court update to item A and switch the other one to item B.
All right. The proposed revision from Alderman Maynard is to reorder the items under Roman numeral 7, public appearances. Since there are 2 of them, it would be simply to reverse the order. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, Alderman Maynard, do you have any further proposed revisions?
Yes, sir. Under Board Business, items A and B, the interview of applicants for Starkville County School District Board of Trustees, and then consideration of the appointment of an applicant for the position, I would like to move under Mayor's Business A and B.
The proposed revision from Alderman Maynard is to move items A and B under Board Business. That is the interview for applicants for the school board and the consideration of an appointment for the school board to items A and B under Mayor's Business. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, it
Your
is.
proposed revision? Is there any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, Alderman Maynard, do you have any further proposed revision?
Yes, Mayor, and in light of the length of our last meeting, I have a few items I would like to place on consent if there's no objection at the table.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Perkins.
we certainly were here. I recall the last meeting, it got about 11 o'clock, just in deference to my colleagues. I think if I had not consented to the agenda last meeting, they've probably been here after midnight. So gentlemen from 5 certainly have no objection in light of that request.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Mayor, I'd like to put item number 4, approval of the meeting minutes of January 17th on consent.
Proposed revision from Alderman Maynard is to place item Roman numeral 4, the consideration of the minutes of the January 17, 2017 meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville, Mississippi, incorporating any and all changes as recommended by the City Attorney, otherwise as presented on the consent agenda. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, it is.
Do I hear any objection? Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none,
Mayor,
please note the change.
under Mayor's Business, items number B and C of the original agenda on consent.
All right, the proposed revision from Alderman Maynard is to place items that were originally listed as B and C under Mayor's Business on the consent agenda. That is the approval of the City of Starkville committing a required 20% matching fund in the amount of $67,264 to be derived from the unallocated sidewalks account upon approval of said project by the Mississippi Development Authority and the Appalachian Regional Commission. Also, an approval of a bronze level scholarship for the Distinguished Young Women Scholarship Program as presented. Proposed revision is to place those items on the consent agenda. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir, Mayor, and I'd just like to note that scholarship level for the bronze sponsorship's at $250.
Is there any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, those two items have been placed on the consent agenda. Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions?
Yes, Mayor, under board business, items E, F, and G.
Proposed revision from Alderman Maynard is to place the following items on the consent agenda. The consideration of VA 1704, request for variance from the street width, right-of-way width, and rear setback requirements for the proposed Phase 9 of Huntington Park. The approval of Keep Starkville Beautiful bylaws and logo, and the encroachment agreement between RM Development LLC and the City of Starkville. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Is there any objection?
I have a question on item G, City Attorney. As far as the maintenance and upkeep of this median area, I didn't see, I quickly read that earlier because it was added late in the meeting process. Does it specify? Did I miss that? As to who's going to upkeep? You know, if there's going to be any shrubbery or mulch and that kind of thing?
It represents repairs, replacement, and maintaining the integrity of the right-of-way shall be the sole responsibility of the property owner. So I would interpret that to be that is their responsibility, including the mulching, making it look good.
All right, thank you.
Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions?
Yes, sir, Mayor, under department business, 11.2, adding items A, B, D, and E to consent.
Alderman Maynard has proposed placing the following items on the consent agenda. The approval of LW 1701, the approval of FP 1703, the appointment of Robert McMillan to the Historic Preservation Commission, and the approval of ordinance 2017-1. Do I need to have the ask for public comment prior to that? That's the retaining wall standards. We've got a public hearing calendar for it. All right, let's take the first three, and then I'll ask for public comments on the fourth one. So, Alderman Maynard, your proposed revision right now stands at item 11B2, A, B, and D.
Yes, sir.
Is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, now your proposed revision is to add item 11B2E to the consent agenda. That is the approval of ordinance 2017-1, retaining wall design standards in R5, B1, C1, and C2 zoning districts. Is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
All right, before I ask for objections, if this is placed on the consent agenda, and the consent agenda is subsequently approved, then this matter will see no further discussion. This is a matter that requires a public hearing, and there is a public hearing calendared this evening. So at this time, since the matter would be approved after we, or could potentially be approved after we pass this point, I will ask, is there any public comment on that matter? Is there any public comment on the proposed retaining wall standards ordinance? Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing none, the matter is now eligible to go on the consent agenda. Is there any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been placed on the consent agenda. Alderman Maynard, would you also now like to remove the public hearing that was scheduled on the agenda?
Yes, sir.
All right, the proposed revision from Alderman Maynard is to remove the second public hearing, second of two required public hearings for retaining wall design standards in R5, B1, C1, and C2 zoning districts. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Mayor, if we remove that, could somebody come back later and say the hearing was never held?
No, he called for it.
He called for it, okay. Yes, sir, that's my motion then.
Is there any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, That matter's been removed from the agenda. Alderman Maynard, do you have any further proposed revisions?
Yes, sir. Under C, courts, add that to consent.
All right, the proposed revision from Alderman Maynard is to place the approval of allowing Court Administrator Tony Rook to attend mandatory continuing education in Biloxi, April 26, 2017 through April 28, 2017, as required by the Mississippi Judicial College and Administrative Offices of the Courts, with all expenses to be funded by the Mississippi Court Administrations Association as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been placed on the consent agenda. Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions?
Yes, sir, Mayor. Under engineering, D, items 1, 2, and 3.
All right, the proposed revisions by Alderman Maynard are to place the following items under engineering on the consent agenda. The approval to add portions of Pin Oak, Douglas MacArthur, Mallory Lane, Crossgate, Hemlock, Hialeah, and Mangrove Palm to the 2017 street improvement list with funding to come from Ward 1 discretionary funds. The approval to accept the low quote from Brownstone Construction in an amount of $4,972.45 to be paid for from Ward 5 discretionary funds. The approval to accept the low bid from Falcon Contracting in the amount of $160,855. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, those matters have been placed on the consent agenda. Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions?
Yes, sir. On consent, fire department number 1, parks number 1, personnel number 1 and 2, and police department 1, 2, and 3.
Did we remove Ms. Kane from number 1 and personnel?
Yes, sir. One of the items under personnel number 1, Ms. Adjana Kane withdrew her application, so we'll just be approving Ms. Lattice Fisher as a radio operator and records clerk.
So Alderman Maynard has proposed placing the following matters on the consent agenda. Under the fire department, granting permission to purchase firefighter turnout gear from NAFCO at a cost of $19,255. The approval of purchasing an Exmark zero-turn 72-inch mower from 2% funds, and the authorization to hire Ms. Latrice Fisher as radio operator, records clerk in the Starkville Police Department. Note that Adonijah Kane was initially slated to be hired tonight, but she has withdrawn from the process, so she's been removed from that order. And finally, the authorization to hire one intern to work part-time with the Starkville Engineering Department. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear any objection?
The only objection, it's not objection, but under Parks Department, was that our lowest and best bid that we received on that mower?
It's state contract, is that correct?
When is that contract due? When's it done?
I'll let the city clerk explain how the state contract process works.
State contracts are negotiated by the Mississippi Department of Purchasing in June of each year, and you can buy directly off of what they receive bids on.
Okay,
That's the lowest one on state contract.
thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I recognize?
You may.
Is this an unusual price or something? This is equipment that calls for a 72-inch or more, and I'm just wondering from the inquiry from the other end of the table, is this an unusual price? And I know it's very customary and traditional for us to purchase items on state contract price. Am I missing something, Mr. Mayor, on this mower? I know we have to have mowers. We're always talking about maintaining and upkeeping all of the parks, and so we got to have some equipment to work with. So I want to applaud the director for bringing this forward so we can have some good equipment to keep the parks clean. You know, we hear all the time about the conditions that the parks are in, that they're not in the best of conditions, and we hear about things from A through Z, and I want to commend you tonight for bringing this forward to have some good equipment to keep the parks in a very immaculate condition so that we can keep Starkville looking beautiful. That will be in conjunction with this creating this committee tonight about keeping Starkville beautiful. So I'm in full support of that. Certainly at the same time, Mr. Mayor, and colleagues, I'm in favor of saving money. I want to keep taxes as low as possible. I want to keep the costs down as much as possible. But, you know, it's customary and traditional for the city to approve expenditures based upon state contract price. We have matters coming all the time, state contract. We get vehicles $20,000 and $30,000. So move second, so move second, so move second. $88,000, Mr. Director, keep watching the dollars, but as tonight, the Vice Mayor appreciates the leadership on this. Mayor, yield the floor.
Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, those matters have been added to the consent agenda. Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions?
Under utilities, item 1 to consent.
Proposed revision by Alderman Maynard is to add item 1 under utilities, the authorization for Randall Criswell, Justin Hatcher, and Orlando Smith to travel to Jackson, Tennessee to attend the TVPPA Line Worker Fundamentals Lab April 1st, Lab 1, April 24th through April 28th, 2017, at a total cost not to exceed $4,750 for all three with advanced travel as presented. Alderman Maynard, that's the proposed revision.
Yes, sir.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been added to the consent agenda. Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions?
That is all, sir.
All right. Are there any further proposed revisions from the remaining members of the board? Are there any further proposed revisions? Any proposed revisions? Seeing none, a motion to... Oh, we do need to add a consent agenda to the agenda. Does somebody want to propose that revision?
So moved.
All right. Alderman Maynard has proposed adding a Roman numeral 4 to the agenda and reordering the agenda to accommodate the change. Roman numeral 4 would be approval of the consent agenda. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear any objection? Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been added to the agenda. Now do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as revised?
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve the agenda as revised. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter before you is the approval of the consent agenda. Is there any objection now to the approval of the consent agenda? Is there any objection to the approval of the consent agenda? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, the consent agenda has been approved. The next matter before you is announcements and comments by the mayor and members of the board, and I have one announcement tonight, or rather we could call it an encouragement. I want to encourage all of you as strongly as I can possibly encourage you to do something, to attend the women's basketball game this Sunday at 4 o'clock. And it should be noted to you that head coach Vic Schaefer would have liked to have been at this meeting himself tonight to encourage you, but due to the busy schedule in the midst of a basketball season, he wasn't able to come. I'm sure this is news to no one, but our women's basketball team is having an historic season. They are currently ranked number 3 in the country in the AP poll, and on the most recent NCAA bracket projections, they were the number 2 overall national seed. This senior class that will be going out, hopefully with an SEC championship on Saturday, is the winningest senior class in MSU women's basketball history. This is truly one of those special moments in our community that we should all do our very best to honor in the best way that we can. So fittingly enough, Mississippi State will be playing for that Southeastern Conference Championship at 4 o'clock on Saturday against the University of Tennessee. Royalty of women's basketball is coming here, hopefully to help us coronate our first outright Southeastern Conference championship in women's basketball. So I encourage you to all get behind the team this weekend. That is my only comment this evening. Are there any comments by the members of the board? Any comments by the members of the board? Any comments? Seeing none, we'll move to public appearances, and we have 2 public appearances tonight. The first is an update provided by the Starkville Municipal Court judge and staff. Oh, I'm sorry, I blew right through citizen comments. At this time, do we have any citizen comments? Any citizen wishing to make comments may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Good evening to the mayor board. My name is Alderman Turner, Ward 7. I would like to recognize Vice Mayor Perkins, Alderman Vaughn, and Alderman Walker.
Thank you, Alan.
Citizens have a couple scary thoughts, and that is that off of old 25 Industrial Road, after you pass the power plant, it's dark. Don't have any lighting, and it's dark on that road after you pass the power thing on the industrial road, and they would like to have that looked at. So much going on. And the next fearful thing is that they are putting the things in the middle of Highway 12, and we have enough rates on a given day, and they're afraid of what we're going to do on game day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
Mr. Kemp, you know what Mr. Turner talking about after you pass the dog pound? You know he talking about after you pass the dog pound. You know what he talking about at the dog spot there? Come down. You know the area what Mr. Turner talking about? It's
Right after you pass
it's the dog pound.
Frank, it's dark, there's no lighting on that stretch of highway, it's woods on both sides. It's very scary if you don't have any light.
Okay. I'll check on that.
Check on that.
I'll get back to you. Thank you. Further citizen comments?
Hello, my name is Tatiana Austin. I'm here tonight on behalf or with some of my fellow Mayor Youth Council members. Right now, we are working on several community service hours. We're preparing to leave for the Mississippi Municipal League Leadership Summit, which takes place next weekend. We have been spending several Sundays at Starkville Manor, visiting the residents, playing games with them, such as bingo and a couple card games and stuff like that. It was very nice, spending time with them, and they really, really appreciate it. We also are just beginning to work to establish a scholarship fund, and our first fundraiser is going to be a pancake breakfast at Applebee's on May 13th, 2017.
Thank you, Ms. Austin. Do we have any other members of the Mayor's Youth Council here this evening? If so, could you please stand?
Thank you.
Y'all do us proud at the state conference in Cleveland. Are there any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments?
I'm trying. Good evening, everybody. Look like y'all want to stretch this board out on me just a little bit here. I can't see y'all face. I would just like to say to everyone that's gathered here tonight, all of us and everybody in the public, this Black History Week, we can't help because it's Black History Week. I want all the black aldermen to please stand at this time. My black aldermen, please stand. My black department managers, all the ones that's managers back there in the audience, would you please stand? Please. On behalf of
Department heads, Ms. Dorothy is asking that you please stand, if you will you please stand?
Before Parker hit, I want to say to y'all that you're doing a very well job here in Starkville, and I would just like to say, I would sing to you, but I'm going to say one phrase, and it's going to be, may the work that I've done speak for me, because you do a lot of services. Y'all do, you do a lot of services, and I have a piece of candy I'm going to give to every one of you. When we got to have our break, though, and then I want my other aldermen to also stand. Y'all stand, too. Because, you know, I can't help they named the Black History. Now, I didn't do that. I didn't do that, but all the rest of y'all do stand, because I can only say, Parker, you can stand.
I was gonna say, what about me?
You can stand. I would just like to say, on behalf of the Black History, I'm part of it. I would just like to say thank y'all for the job well done. And I can only give you this, and that's kisses. I love you, and thank y'all so much.
Now, Miss Isaac, I think that's as nice as you've ever been to Alderman. Any further citizen comment? Any further citizen comment? Any further citizen comment? Seeing none, we'll now move to public appearances. Our first public appearance is the Starkville Municipal Court update.
Mayor, Board, we appreciate once again the opportunity to appear before you to give the annual report for the municipal court for the city of Starkville. While Mr. Rook is bringing this up, I'm going to, at this time, I want to recognize again Mr. Tony Rook, our court administrator, Ms. Caroline Moore, our city prosecutor, Ms. Yolanda Sykes, our head clerk, the other clerks that are not here tonight by their own choice. I didn't make them be here, but I want to recognize them for their hard work as well. That includes Ms. Pamela Simpson, Ms. Jody Hogue, Ms. Marissa Millam, and Ms. China Brooks. These ladies are the ones that make my job easy and Mr. Rook's job easy, and without them, we would not be the efficient, exemplary court that you have here in the city of Starkville, which, again, I tell you every year the same thing. There's no better court in this state due to the people here, and we want to again thank you for providing us the best facility that there is no comparison to anywhere you go in the state, the facility that you and the citizens have provided us. And without this, it makes our job this much easier. So, and lastly, before I turn it over to Mr. Rook to talk about the numbers, I want to recognize the chief and all the hard work that his officers do for the court, making court run smoothly. And without them, and without Chief's help, he's always available for me and Mr. Rook, and whatever we need, he bends over backwards to help us. And I want to recognize him and the hardworking officers that come before us and make the court run as smooth as it does. I'm going to let Mr. Rook talk about the particulars, and we're going to get through this quick. I know you have a large agenda, but the case count this year is up a little bit, not a significant amount, about 100 and so cases. There's not really been that much change this past year. We've seen some increase in violent felonies, which is troubling, but overall, I think the numbers are consistent with what you've seen in the past years. And so I'll turn it over to Mr. Rook for a more detailed presentation. If you have any questions, we'd be glad to answer anything. Other than that, we'll get out of your hair and let you finish your important business.
Thank you, Judge Faber and Mr. Mayor and Vice Mayor and Board. Every time we present this presentation, we go over our case numbers, and we have several different categories. We focus on traffic citations, misdemeanors, DUIs, and felonies. And we'll take a look at traffic citations first. And what we do, you can see the year 2016 compared to the previous 5 years. We had 8,004 traffic citations issued in 2016, which was up just slightly. Now, if we take a look at DUIs, you'll see we had 313, which was down a little bit compared to the last few years. Misdemeanors, 1,124. That was down about 95 cases. And felonies, we had a fairly significant increase. Last year was a little bit low, but we did see 2015 was a little low, but we did see 242 new felonies last year. The total, if you look at it, the total is very close to last year. Now, right here is where we give you a much more detailed analysis of these different categories. We're going to start with traffic citations. Out of 8,004 traffic citations, you can see the top category is no proof of insurance. We saw 1,821 insurance citations issued, and that comprises of 23% of the traffic caseload. Next, we have no seatbelt and no child restraint, 1,755 cases. And those top two categories comprise of 45% of the citations that were issued. We have an other column, and then we have speeding, 1,434, or 18%. No driver's license or suspended driver's license, 660 new citations. Running a red light or stop sign, 448 new citations, and then DUI, 313. Now, if we take a look at misdemeanors, you'll see 1,124 new misdemeanors for 2016. The leading category is violation of probation or contempt of court. 466 new cases. That comprises of 41% of our overall misdemeanor caseload. This is where we spend an enormous part of our time. That's followed by alcohol-related misdemeanors at 178, drug-related misdemeanors at 142, disturbing the peace and disorderly conduct at 100, simple assault and any kind of misdemeanor domestic violence, 92 new cases, and misdemeanor theft or petty larceny, 40 new cases. Now, if we take a look at felonies, this top category is what the judge is talking about. We had a total of 242 felonies, and it's important to keep in mind that these numbers represent felony arrest only. They do not represent reported felonies, arrest only. And as you can see, theft, burglary, and robbery, we saw 97 cases. White-collar crimes, 30 cases. Drug-related felonies, 29 new cases. Aggravated assault, 23 new cases. And felony DUI, 9 new cases. So at this point, we would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions or comments from the members of the board? Are there any questions or comments? Alderman Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I just want to commend my colleague for the municipal court judge favor. Of course, you know, he and I appear a good bit on the opposite side of municipal, and not in municipal court, but in chancery court. And he always does an exceptional job in representing his clients. And I said that to say this, that Judge, it appears that you do a very excellent job. Of course, I do not practice in municipal court in Starkville because it would be a conflict of interest, my being a member of the city council, and that precludes me. But of course, I do see your staff around, other colleague, your prosecutor, and Mr. Rook, and last but not least, your honorable court clerk. So you certainly appear to have a very excellent staff, and as we well know, as we travel the various courts throughout the state, that the staff is the very key to success, you know, in conjunction with the municipal court here. And just want to thank you for all that. And even though the numbers are down, you know, it is my opinion as the vice mayor, as an attorney, what's important is, of course, the court is here to transact the business you all are doing, and the police department is ensuring that they're serving, protecting the citizens. And of course, I have always been the mindset that we do not, and not that that's the philosophy tonight, but I have always been the mindset that we do not need to just depend upon revenue from generating tickets or anything. And of course, that's not the what I'm hearing here, but very interesting report. I see where y'all have been extremely busy with all the 4 categories. The citation has been up with the traffic citation. The felonies have increased in the overall total cases, and so they fluctuate. But the great thing about it is that the judge mentioned with the police department is keeping our community safe. And of course, and y'all got the with the budget chairs support and the rest of the board member support, you got that electronic filing system. I'm sure that's working well, because we, the judge and Ms. Moore, and I know how well that's working in our day-to-day practice. That electronic filing is the order of the day now. So this is a very modern system. I can speak to that. I don't mean to take a lot of the time. I think my last time seeking recognition tonight, but I wanted to say that, Judge, you know, you and I work closely in Chancery Court on a number of matters, and wanted to say that, and because this is about the only time you come here once a year, and I understand as an attorney the real significance of having the staff and the personnel in your police department, you know, being able to work closely, and it shows a very good working relationship with you and the chief of police and his staff, and Mr. Rook, and the other personnel, Miss Moore and Miss Sykes and her staff. So we want to thank you all for all that, and a great job, and we certainly appreciate all what you're doing for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins.
Any further questions or comments? Alderman Little.
It seems like it's already been a year since you guys reported. It's
Every
gone by.
February.
I appreciate all you guys do down there. It runs, your department runs very smoothly, echoing the vice mayor's comments. I did have one question, as far as, have y'all had any code enforcement violations come
Yes, sir.
forward since we talked about last year? And
We did
the
not
process?
have any in 2016, however, we have had several filed with us this year. In fact, we had four on one of the dockets last week. We've got a trial set in March, and I think we have a few others in the pipeline.
Thank
So
you.
we are seeing some of those.
And it has, and as a matter of fact, one of the cases last week resolved itself because the gentleman agreed that he'd been sick, and that's why his yard had gotten in the place it was, and he was working with the code enforcement officer hand in hand to try to get it resolved, and so we didn't even have to have a hearing on it. So, but those are the first ones we've had starting last week. We had 5 on the docket last week.
Thank you.
Any further? Alderman Nguyen.
Judge Favor, Mr. Rooks, Mrs. Moore, and Ms. Sykes, thanks for all that it is that you do for our city. Whenever my schedule permits, I like to slip in and kind of stay about 30 minutes with you all. I know. And Judge Favor, I just want to say thank you for always letting me keep my hat on when I visit your courtroom.
You're the only person I let keep their hat on.
I know. Thank you so much. Mayor, I yield the floor at this time.
Any further questions or comments by the members of the board? Any further questions or comments? Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
We'll be excused then. Thank y'all.
Thank you. The next matter before you is a public presentation by the Neighborhood Homeowners, SOCSD, representatives, and the city engineer regarding drainage issues on Green Street.
Good evening, Mayor, Board, Vice Mayor. Wanted to bring to you guys tonight just a kind of continue a conversation that we've been having probably for the last 9 months or so, along with Alderman Maynard. And before I get started, I just want to introduce a couple folks that are here with me tonight. This is Mr. Jack Cook. He lives on Jackson Street. Of course, most of y'all know former Alderman Emmett Smitherman. And then right here, we also have Elvis Kynard representing the school district. We've also had the privilege of, from the school district, had Dr. T. Holloway and Principal Julie Kennedy from Overstreet School participate in these conversations that we've been having for the last few months. Just wanted to bring these to you guys so you are aware of some of the issues that we're having over there, let you know that some of the work that we've done, and also talk to you a little bit about some potential next steps. So just to bring you up to speed about kind of where we've been, and I'll go through this quickly because I know we have a long agenda tonight, but I would say Mr. Smitherman contacted us back last May and let us know that there was some issues that he was experiencing on his property due to some increased runoff through Overstreet Playground. It was his suspicion at that time that some of the pipes could have been blocked due to the upstream construction going on Montgomery Street near Hogan Street. So we had all the TV line, all the storm drainage lines inspected for blockage, and that was in last summer in August. We had a large storm event shortly after school started in September of last year, and I'll show some photos from after that event. That kind of really got the ball going in earnest. Kind of tried to speed up what we were doing, and before we really wanted to come up with any options on what we needed to correct or what we needed to fix, we really needed to evaluate what the existing conditions look like, and I'll share some of that work with you in just a minute. So from that, we took that existing conditions and then made some small, what I would consider low-hanging fruit type improvements upstream, increased some inlet sizes, try to divert some water, found some inlets that were blocked and clogged, some pipes not related on another area to try to get the drainage flowing better. And then we met in January of this year and discussed some potential improvements to the homeowners in this group that's been meeting, and then tonight just bringing you guys up to speed on that. So the first thing, like I said, what we did is we did a drainage study. We evaluated the entire drainage basin. I have a larger printout of this if you're interested. We evaluated every pipe that is tributary to this area that we're having problems with it, and we evaluated it based on the expected flow that we got. So I'm going to do just a blow up of the area that we're having the most problems with. This is Jackson Street, this is Green Street, and pretty much all of these blue lines here is the existing pipe network. Today, if we were going to design a new pipe or have a new subdivision, commercial development of that nature, we would try to design a storm drainage system to accommodate a 25-year storm event. And I don't want to get too deep into the details of stormwater theory and that type of thing, but the long story short is all of these pipes are much lower than just a 2-year storm event. A 2-year storm event is something that you're going to see very often. And we typically try to design based on a 25-year event because it will capture and convey the majority of the storm events. The super large events, obviously not going to carry those, but it will not be overwhelmed just during a typical summer rain type event. So knowing that information, we then went and tried to come up with some alternatives. So one of the first things we looked at is replacing this entire line going under the street there and all the way to this point here. Obviously, that's not the entire network. That's insufficient and undersized, but we thought that that would be a first step because essentially what's happening is a lot of this water is unable to get into the storm drainage system and is sheet flowing across the playground, across the street, into this area, and then flooding this whole area of the roadway as well as this whole area of lawn. This improvement right here to upsize the pipe to accommodate the 25-year event, as you can see at the bottom, is around $172,000. Very expensive, very large pipes. In this instance right here, we actually have to have a double run of pipe to achieve that design. So then another thing we looked at is trying to capture more water. You know, if we're unable to replace these pipes, what can we do to allow the water to enter the system better? So that's the next thing we looked at is specifically on Jackson Street is we looked at making the inlets larger, making some, there's one location right here that it seems to be a little bit of the Achilles heel, is really increasing the opening in that location as well. All of these improvements are $34,500. And one thing you will notice on this, and I'll interject this for the school district, is on this particular plan, there's no improvement shown up in the playground area. And that is one of the things that is most concerning to them, is they're investing a lot of money in the playground playing surface and that type of thing, and it continually is being washed away due to large rain events. So it's my opinion that we're not going to be able to really address that until we improve this entire network all the way up to here, and that of course is going to be very, very expensive. So with that, I'm going to show a couple of these photos. Dr. T, along with the homeowners, have kind of shared these. And this is, again, we had that large event in September of last year. You can see that the playground pretty much hardly has any mulch, and the mulch was seen all the way down essentially to Jackson Street because we had such a large event. You can see all the cross ties have been moved, and that's kind of a regular occurrence now, especially with the large event. Very outdated, very aged infrastructure in that area. This is an example of one of the inlets that's located up there. There's several locations where the pipes are visible from the ground. As it stands right now, we just have a lot of water flowing through the playground. This is the large event, and and look, I know that this January 2nd event caused issues in everyone's ward. I think I heard from everybody at some point or another about a problem due to this rain event. But these are some photos from that rain event. This is, if y'all know where Mr. Emmett lives, this is basically in his front door looking out. This is Jackson Street. It looks like a river, but it's really Jackson Street. And then this is right across the street at Mr. Cook's house, looking kind of to the northeast back toward Overstreet School. And you can see the water there coming up from the vehicles. Mr. Cook also provided a video that I wanted to share with you guys now.
Is this from Mr. Cook's house? Is this?
It is.
That's the driveway.
This is looking up
This is
Green
his
Street.
driveway. And so the ditch is right here, where it goes into open stream.
Open drainage is
Yeah.
right there.
Mr. Emmett would live right here, the school would be right there. So let me start this video. I think you'll be able to hopefully see it. You can see a lot of the water just so full in the roadway, it's just conveying down the driveway. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to some of the homeowners to let them make some comments, and then Alderman Maynard, if you want to provide some final comments.
Let me go ahead. I get started. Good evening, Mayor.
We've got 3 minutes.
Mayor, Vice Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Board. And, yeah, I lived here all my life. Never had these events before. It's happened 3 times this last year. It's going to continue to happen. I'm on a conventional foundation. I'm getting water under the house. So this amount of time, I think it creates some real problems. The water over Jackson Street is about 2 feet deep. It's just amount of time 2 cars come down through there at the same time, they will hit each other. So it all results from the development above on Hogan Street, on the old boarding plant, and that new development there, the apartment, that big apartment, and the houses, and there's nowhere for the water to run off. It's coming in. And now we've got a public facility, a public school, guys, a public school, that we get 2 feet of water coming across the school ground, and the kids can't even get out there and play. Got kids with disability, they can't even get out in the yard. It's 2 feet of water, guys, coming around that school, pushing down to Jackson Street. Comes across Green Street, between the apartments and my house, and then you see what the problem, you see the problem once it gets to Jackson Street. So 3 times this past year, and like Edward said, it's going to happen several more times as we go forward. So what happened with that development, I don't know what took place, but we did something bad wrong when we allowed that development and didn't require them to do enough improvements to the infrastructure. It's created some real problems. So that's kind of my comments. Jack and Evers.
All right, are there any questions or comments, Alderman Maynard?
I want to thank Alderman Smitherman, Mr. Jack, Mr. Ellis for coming. This is an issue we're going to have to address at some point. Obviously, it'll be the next term we can begin to address with significant resources. I put some money into some of the improvements that Edward mentioned to try to alleviate a little bit of the problem, but ultimately it's going to be redoing that entire infrastructure all the way up there through the school system and down. So something to add to the capital improvements list. And Alderman Smitherman would like it to be on the top.
Right.
So.
Alderman Ball.
Was this happened before they made the development, the Hogan development? Was this happening that bad then, or it just started after the development?
After the development. Never had happened before. Yeah, right, Evers? No, it's never happened before.
So that's why You bring it to the board now because that's why we haven't heard about it before now.
That's right. It happened 3 times this last year.
Was the balcony subject to the stormwater ordinance?
It was, Mayor, and they provided underground storm mitigation, underground storage as part of their development. Their development meets the stormwater ordinance requirements.
So according to the calculations that were submitted, how much runoff was added to the system by that development?
The stormwater ordinance only mitigates the 2 and the 10-year storm events. Any storm events greater than that is not under the purview of the stormwater ordinance and does not have to mitigate any of those storms.
So is it 2 or is it 10?
It's both, the 2 and the 10. So you cannot increase the pre-development flow rate for the 2-year event and the 10-year event. You have to evaluate both of those storm events.
Okay.
But any event greater than that, there is no mitigation required. And these storms that we've mostly been talking about, the large storm events, they would not have to be mitigated as part of the ordinance requirements.
I've got Walker, then Little.
Thank you all for bringing this, and there's no question we have issues with stormwater and other infrastructure issues there. Mr. Kemp, could you go back to the map? Right there, that one's fine. This is interesting, and I would look at this, and I appreciate the school district getting involved. I think y'all are for really beginning to solve this. I think y'all are a critical piece of that. I certainly think that the alternatives that the city engineer and the folks have been working on have to be part of this process. But one of the things that I come back to the Center for Watershed Protection. This is one of the eastern branches of the headwaters of Hollis Creek, and we all know how Hollis Creek moves through our city. And there's a fair amount of drainage, and it's only going to increase as we continue to densify the downtown area. One of the things that I think is potentially a real advantage, and what the Center for Watershed Protection would espouse, is that look for those opportunities where you have existing public infrastructure. Where we have big open ground that is at the school. There is potential opportunities to look at other sort of best management practices where you're looking at maybe a little bit more like regional detention or something where we may be able to capture that water, whether that's going to be in a constructed wetland or some other type of retention or detention facilities, because the reality is that upsizing all those pipes downstream are extremely expensive, that we're pointing out, and we're still probably not going to be able to capture all that flow. So I think some combination, Mr. City Attorney, that I think might moving forward as an option of looking in that sort of where it makes sense on that site. I'm not exactly sure where the playground is, but if there's opportunities to be able to sort of get in that pipe where we're daylighting some of that water for a constructed wetland, that could be very much an educational opportunity for the school or some other type of regional detention where we're slowing that water down and holding it somewhere on that campus before we re-release it back into the continuous outflow of what we're looking there is only going to help everybody downstream, including the folks that we're talking about here. So I think that's a lot of opportunity to talk about that. And I think this gives us a great example of being able to do that. And we have these same types of issues around town where we have the fire station off of South Montgomery and Academy Place or Academy Drive, where we have big open areas where we have another one of the headwaters of Hollis Creek. Potential opportunity to look at how we're going to deal with stormwater at this level where we have public facilities that could potentially be expanded to deal with a lot of that stormwater event so we don't have to upsize the pipes as much downstream to help alleviate some of these real concerns that are going to happen. And they're only going to increase. So I think I would like to put all the options on the table, but I see that public facility being a major solution to helping deal with this major infrastructure issue. Thank you.
Alderman Little.
Mr. Kemp, we've certainly had our share of drainage discussions over the last 3.5 years. My question to you would be, as we go through the code rewrite, and I know the 2 and 10 year stormwater ordinance is not strong enough, in my opinion, from what I've seen around town. Are you looking to strengthen this in the code rewrite?
That's something we had some very preliminary discussions with the consultants last week, is basically we asked them to evaluate it and provide us with some comparative analysis on how we relate to other communities of our similar size. I do think when you get that comparative analysis back, you will find that we're probably pretty low on the end of the spectrum when it comes to mitigation for stormwater.
It just seems to me that it'd be proactive to get ahead of it on the front side, and
Right.
it's the cheapest time to address it than on the back side, and once the city takes it over on development. So I appreciate your work on that.
And to your earlier point, Alderman Walker, we have, with the cooperation of the school district, we have provided this area in the kind of tree area is kind of the playground. We have built some berms on the backside here to try to slow down the water. Almost created a linear basin that basically flows around into this area here. And it intent was to keep a lot of that sheet flow from just running across their
So that's addressing the sheet flood.
It is, and it is going to be something that needs to be increased probably. We'll have to, coordinate with the school district on it, because it's obviously an active playground and we don't want to create any kind of situation that may be a hazard for them. But we are trying to think creatively about this, knowing that the resources are very limited on this. And this infrastructure is probably well over 50, 75 years old. So at the time it was installed, it may have been adequate, but with all of the development that we have going on in the last several decades, it's probably reached its useful life as well. So there's got to be probably a combination.
Yes, I agree with that. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments by the members of the board?
Any further questions or comments?
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none. Thank you, gentlemen. The next matter on the agenda is a public hearing on the status of the smart bus system. Alderman Dumas, you may proceed when you're ready. And Alderman Dumas, since this public hearing is a little bit different than the type of public hearings that we usually hold in these meetings, I'm just going to turn this proceeding over to you, and when you're finished, I will proceed to chair the meeting again.
I'll take that honor. Well, I thank y'all for, do what now? So you gotta watch out. I need the gavel. Can I have the gavel?
You can have the gavel.
All right. Thank y'all for having us. I'm Jeremiah Dumas. I'm the Director of Parking and Transit at Mississippi State. This is Ronnie White. He's the Associate Director of Parking and Transit. We have Mr. Larry Graves. He's our Transit Manager. And we have Hannah Howell, who is our Marketing Communications Coordinator in the back of the room. As Mayor Wiseman said, we are here tonight to not only present to you what we've done in the past year and what we're planning to do this next year, but we are here to have our formal public hearing as part of our annual grant application. Grants are due next week, and so we've been working hard on our budget and evaluating where we've been. And so this is one of the key processes, our key steps as part of our process of not only obtaining your thoughts and comments, but those from the community. So Larry and Hannah are passing out sign-in sheets, so if you would, all in the audience, please give us your name so we have record of you being here. But in terms of process, I'll give a short presentation. Then I'll take questions and comments from you, the board, and the mayor. And then if I could, open it back up to the audience so we can hear from them. So I've been here a couple of years, so I'm not going to go over the details of what all has happened or where we've really come from in terms of history. But just in terms of process, I do want to talk about our funding dynamics. We do make an application to MDOT every year. We receive what's termed 5311 rural mass transit monies. Anything over 50,000, they qualify for urban transit dollars through an MPO process directly from FTA, but considering that we are the population we are, this is the process that we're mandated to go through MDOT. It's an 80-20 capital cash match, so when we buy a bus or buy a shelter or do any type of capital improvements, we receive 80% of the monies from MDOT. MSU Parking Services provides 20% of the cash match, or the 20% cash match, and you, the city, provide in-kind in the way of providing shelter construction or putting up our signage or installing sidewalks around our shelters because they have to be ADA accessible. You also help us with electrical hookups and maintenance of those facilities. So that's the in-kind that you, the city, provide through this. Operationally, there's a 50% cash match. So annual bus driver salaries and gas and fuel and tires, et cetera, that's a 50-50 cash match. Again, 50% MDOT, 50% from Mississippi State. We operate what's termed a fixed and a flexed route system. So we have a set schedule of stops. We have a set route. We do not deviate from those routes. So we have to document that every year, and we have to hit those routes in sequence in the way that they're planned. A flexed route is a little different. It's somewhat like a fixed route, but it allows us to flex in terms of needs. So I'll give you Highway 12, for example. The Highway 12 route flexes slightly to go pick up individuals at Haven 12. When the research route, which goes to Haven 12, stops operating at 6, so the flex route then goes to Haven 12, and it gives those that live at Haven 12 the opportunity to go in the community. Paratransit is our on-demand service, so fixed, flexed, and on-demand are all formal terms in the transit world, and our paratransit program is a program that we've had in existence since we began, and it's something that we probably take the most pride in. It's something that individuals in the community can qualify for if they are handicapped. Their doctor has to sign in on the application process. They fill out an application process, and then we do an in-house interview. And by our paratransit program, we will provide door-to-door transportation services from anywhere within our service area to a medical facility or someone else that they need in terms of medical care or retail or anywhere for that matter. We now, and I'll get into some of the numbers, but we've seen tremendous growth in that, and it's where we take a lot of pride because there are individuals in this room, for example, that use it, and we're proud for them to be some of our riders. We do participate in regional and statewide coordination, and that's across the state that MDOT requires that we provide coordination efforts with different transportation providers across the region and state. In theory, we're supposed to be able to provide transportation for anyone in the state going anywhere in the state. So if any of y'all need a ride to the Mississippi Gulf Coast, you can call our mobility manager, and within 24 hours we can coordinate that travel for you. Might have to pay a little bit for it, maybe what you win on the way back. So ridership numbers. Recent article, and we're always asked about how many riders we have. We're very proud of the fact that we have a lot of riders. Obviously, the overwhelming number of riders in our system is on campus. We've had a system since '96. We know that, but we continue to see growth across the system. This year we saw about a 5% growth in our ridership. What's good about that is that it not only grew on campus, it grew in the community. And so now we're averaging about 22% of our total ridership on an annual basis in the community. So just this past year alone, that equated to about 165,000 riders on those routes that are in the city. And I mentioned our paratransit standpoint. We're averaging about 150 to 250, and I say about, and I know an average is about anyway, but some months it's greater than others, but our high has been a high of 250, and that's of about 25 individuals, I think, that are registered. And again, that's day-to-day process to get to and from their doctor, and we have a fully ADA accessible van. We have drivers that are trained in how to operate those lifts and and so it's a great service. If you've not seen it in action, we have 2 new vans that are in the city. We're actually purchasing a new van because the need is there, and it's something we're proud of. This past year, I spoke to you about the Golden Triangle Regional Airport route. This year, our first year, we had 1,300 riders to take advantage of that. So that's, again, a free shuttle directly to GTR Airport. First pickup is at Walmart. Second pickup is at the Mill. I mentioned the flex route. This is a flex route. So if anyone who's staying in a hotel along Highway 12 or anyone on campus, if they need access to this route to get to campus, they just call us. We'll coordinate their pickup. We'll pick them up. And we'll take them to the airport. Get them there an hour beforehand. And if you land at GTR and you have no idea, and that's quite frankly one of the biggest needs we had, was several people were landing and just assumed that there were transportation options when there weren't other than a rental car. We'll bring anybody back that needs to go again along that Highway 12 corridor. But it's been a very successful program, and we're proud of it. This past year we did every year we do ridership forms, but what's been most interesting is when you look at the stats of our last couple of weeks. So the last couple of weeks we've had ridership forms on the routes. So far we've surveyed and been able to to quantify the results of that, but 293 as of today. But what's interesting, and I know all this doesn't add up to 100%, but we told them to mark all that apply. Well, we knew a lot of people were using this program to get to education, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't know that 30% of the population was using it to get to jobs and employment, that 23% were getting to shopping. I knew that there was a small number in there, but even as you see of all those going down, that there's a pretty good percentage of them that are getting to Parks and Rec, 9% of them getting to healthcare. Again, so these numbers are proving that people are using it throughout the week, not just getting to and from campus, and we're proud of that. Another interesting stat, though, is that 39% of them qualified themselves as being carless. So that could be international students, but a lot of that is also in the community. And I gave you stats last year that kind of compared the poverty rate in the city of Starkville, because the poverty rate in the city of Starkville actually is, in 2010 census, was 39%. Which in research could kind of cross back and forth as being your most qualified carless population. But we're actually proving that we're moving quite a few. But on top of that, we're also moving 61% that do have vehicles that are choosing to ride with us just because of the convenience. And then of our riders, of those almost 300 that were surveyed, most of them use it almost 5 days a week. So again, another thing that really proves the reliability, or not the reliability, but how people are using it, because it's something they're really depending on. So this next year, what are we doing? A couple of things. We will admit, and I will admit, that we've had some growing pains. One of the issues that we face is our technology is obsolete, and I don't know if any of you that have dealt with state procurement over the last couple of years, it's been a little bit difficult. So it's taken us a long time to get through the procurement process of some new technology, but we're on the tail end of it, and we hope to have new technology installed in all our shelters and shuttles by the end of the summer. But we've also heard a lot about some inefficiencies or some lack of service in certain areas, Boardtown North, east of campus, which is not in the community but in the county, and then also City Hall. We get a daily ask, or I get asked quite often about access to City Hall or electric department or somewhere to go pay a bill. Improved efficiencies, how we can modify routes, how we can decrease some of the turns. Because our old system, we tried to be convenient. So we would take a small street here, a small street over here to get over to pick up someone. But when you take a big bus down a small street, it takes a lot of time to make that turn. Edward also fusses at us because we're tearing up the roads. But we're trying to eliminate all those and trying to really evaluate all that because of an increased efficiency standpoint. An increased customer service. We do have a GPS tracking unit, and it works on most buses, but I know all of you probably have a smartphone. I'm going to pick on you, Alderman Perkins. You've even got a phone that doesn't even use 2G technology anymore.
That's right.
We've got shelters and buses that still use 2G technology. AT&T is cutting off that network across the country, and we're going 3G and 4G, and so because those things can't communicate, we're getting some bad data in terms of when we're actually going to be there and how many riders we have. Smartphone app, shelters and benches, et cetera, are all things that we want to increase our customer service with. So this is our routes of what we're trying to do this year, and I'm going to zoom in on some of these. And just a disclaimer on this, when you compare it to the pamphlet that you have, these pamphlets that you have are our current system, so the maps that you see on this are of what is being proposed. But we're looking at a phasing plan of about 20 new shelters, most of which are going to be in the community. So again, that goes back to your in-kind of helping us develop those. And as you can see, we've got them over 4 different fiscal years. We try to buy and install 5 of those a year. This is our East Lee route. So the classroom building, and y'all are going to have to forgive me, I'm colorblind. I can't find this dot, but I'm going to use it right here. So this is the classroom building, shut up, Ronnie, you run that. The classroom building is the new hub on the northern part of campus. You can see the drill field just south of it. East Lee Boulevard, I'm surprised on a daily basis, our office is out East Lee, of how many students walk and use East Lee Boulevard to get to and from campus. So we're growing out East Lee. We'll probably, or try to put a shelter, we are going to put a shelter somewhere in the Church of Christ area. And this is actually being funded through a contract with the Retreat Apartments. So they're building on the corner of Old Mayhew Road and Bardwell. And so we'll provide express service from their facility back to the classroom building and picking up along East Lee. Here, you can run. Highway 12 Express, this is a route we introduced 2 years ago. It's had one shuttle on it, so it's made it a long, as any of you been on Highway 12 traffic. Traffic is what traffic is, and so we get caught in traffic too. So we're adding another route or another bus to this route that will help increase our service times. Highway 12 Express provides service and hub connections at Walmart, at Kroger, at the Patriots Park, Chevron, at Vowels, and then it picks up at the mill and goes to Montgomery Hall. Again, offering hub systems to Boardtown North, Boardtown South, and then to the Old Main Express. Go ahead. The Old Main Express is one that we're going to provide access to City Hall, so it leaves Patriots Park and the Chevron, goes up Whitfield Street, picks up at the Greensboro Center. We're going to use Meg's, come in and pick up in front of City Hall. Then we currently provide service to Regions and to the Bank of Commerce, then go Fire Station 1. Of course, we don't pick up on both sides of the road, but basically picking up along Main Street and University Drive and ultimately going again to the classroom building to provide that hub. Slight change in this on campus is the fact that it currently goes to Giles because of the construction of the classroom building. We will be moving it to the classroom building for all the hub opportunities. Boardtown South, and this is probably, these next two are probably the most excited, are the ones that have, I think, some of the more impressive changes. The route itself won't change. We go from Walmart to Vowels and then go to Salvation Army. And this is one of those learned sessions about how important the infrastructure is in these facilities, because we have a Medicaid office, and I said this last year, that we can't provide service to because of where it is, and it doesn't have a big enough driveway, et cetera, et cetera. So we have to take individuals to the Salvation Army on Industrial Park Road, let them off, and then they walk up Industrial Park Road to the Medicaid office. Again, back to that carless population. We then go to Emerson, and currently we go all the way from Emerson up to Lynn Lane and go to the Sportsplex, et cetera, then to Dirt Cheap, and then to Vowels. But because of y'all's project with MDOT and the Transportation Alternative Project and the Safe Routes to School project that will actually leave Lynn Lane and go to Emerson, part of that includes the construction of 2 bus pull-off and bus shelters. We've learned that density in housing is a key driver in the ridership and transportation. We see that in our Boardtown North numbers because we do pick up in several housing locations. The thing we miss in our Boardtown South is because there's nowhere to pick up along Old 25 South safely, is that we really don't serve any housing facilities right now. But by adding these 2 spots through y'all's project, it will tremendously increase the connection to several housing facilities, 2 of which are housing authority projects, and others that are generally just low and moderate income facilities that use these types of services. So we're real excited about that project coming on. And then the Boardtown North. So currently this route leaves Vowels, goes through downtown, and kind of meanders up Jackson Street to OCH, and then up to Garrett Road and back to OCH, and it makes a weird couple of jogs in there. We're going to modify this route quite a bit, leave Vowels, go up to Main Street, then go up North Montgomery. North Montgomery was another area that we did not provide service to. Several housing facilities along North Montgomery that have asked repeatedly for service. We're going to install two shelter locations north of Kreitz, between Kreitz Street and Garrett Road. Install a new shelter on the corner of, or between Garrett Road, between Jackson and Montgomery Street on Garrett Road. Then go over to Reed Road on Garrett, and then pick up the Reed Place Apartments, or the Reed Place development. And that's another one that we've had repeated questions about, because several of individuals from that Reed apartment complex will leave and or that housing facility will walk down Reed Road all the way to our stop on People Street. There's no sidewalk, there's no anything, so we're going to actually go into inside that development, pick up, and then continue on to OCH, Peoples, Long Street, and then the way that we typically do. But some good changes in there, and this route has probably had the most questions about what can we do to improve this route, or what can you do to come to some of our areas. So we hope that this will be a big improvement for several of these areas. So those are our route changes. In terms of what we need from you, no formal discussion, no formal decision tonight, but we do appreciate your continued support in terms of your in-kind match with our construction shelters, electrical needs, maintenance of our facilities, you'll see more of those come online. So over the years, we see that actual in-kind and the importance of that will, and the use of those facilities will actually grow. And then I'm also going to plant the seed, and this is the first time I've asked you, goes in line with future allocations of funds. You know, these things don't just happen without cash. And so in future, I hope to be able to start some discussions about how you as the Board of Aldermen can maybe bring some funding to the table in terms of true cash that can help us run this. We're one of the few in the state that have a city system that receives no funding from the local government. In fact, I don't know of another one that does not receive local government from either the county or the city to run their system. And so I do want to leave that with you. But at this time, I'll end. I'll take questions from you first if I could, and then I'll open it up to the audience. Yes, sir.
First of all, thank y'all for coming. I know it's been a few years in the making. I will say this. Constructive criticism I provided years on. I'm seeing the increased ridership tick up, especially on, I think you said it was the Boardtown 25 South route. I'm really seeing that starting to pick up. Back to the app, I just got a few questions and things like this. Is there a pretty active app? Oh, and back to the paratransit, I guess maybe I'll stick with the vans up. I'm really noticing those, maybe a couple constituents in Ward 1, but I'm really seeing those out on the town. And how does the app work?
Well, right now we don't have an app, and that was one of the things we tried to purchase, but we do have a website. You can go to the website. It's transit.msstate.edu. It has all our routes. You can select your route. Then it shows the buses that are on that route, and it gives the bus ETA to the next stop, plus it gives a capacity. So you can know how full the bus is and when it's going to get to your location. The app takes it to a whole another level. I mean, there's all types of intuitive things to where you can track the bus, you can get updates of when the bus will be there, you can get notices, because that's one of the challenges we face when you look at the diversity of the people that we serve. So we're dealing with students who do nothing but check their phone and Twitter and Snapchat, all the way through the people in the community that are the most reliant on it. You know, the smartphone they don't look at they're not looking at the smartphone or checking a website. So we have to, and that's one of the challenges and reasons we have Hannah, is that we have to communicate across that spectrum. And hopefully the app will help in a large part of that, but we know it won't in others. But that app is one of the things we're purchasing this summer.
Secondly, really exciting is the GTR route. I was going to ask some questions about that. I tried to read on here. So if I got a flight going out, and there's flights throughout the whole, parts of the day, and you want to leave and get there an hour and a half, or get there an hour before your flight, is that something that you have to book so many hours in advance, so many days in advance?
No, so we're at and I don't know the exact times, but we're at Walmart. I think it's an hour and 50. It's on there. That's why we don't document exact times of the day. We get updates from GTR Airport, and they tell us when the flights change, and so we modify our driver schedules from that. So if your flight leaves at 11, we're going to have you at GTR at 10, which means that we're going to leave Walmart at 9:10 or whatever. Then we're going to get to the meal, and that's all documented in there, because we leave Walmart and meal at the same exact time prior to each flight, regardless of when the flight leaves. And then we stay there for a certain amount of time so that you can get on the bus.
Have y'all thought of any kind of ridership fees to the airport? I mean, most people gladly pay $5, $10. I mean,
well, we've considered fees all the way around, and it was one of the things, even when we started this program, was to evaluate, do we charge a fare or not? Most do charge a fare, but one of the things that we wanted to do was not do a simple coin box type system. We wanted to have that, but we also wanted to go all the way up to something that you could swipe your student ID with. The problem is those things are very expensive, and by the time you put it in a bus, and what little you would actually make on fares, it didn't even subsidize the fare box, let alone any other cash. So it was just most simple to go free, and it's been a big advantage for those in the community.
Well, the buses are looking good, but
thank you.
Thank y'all, and especially the vans. I think they're just being newly wrapped, or there's several in town I'm noticing. Oh, and the last question I had is, y'all gonna have any kind of modifications for the Highway 12 when the road work happens, or you continue your route that you think you've got?
That's a good question. I don't know. We are adding another bus to it, but thankfully where we enter and exit Highway 12, Walmart, Vowels, Kroger, and then the mill, those are all properly signalized intersections. So we should be able to maneuver those intersections without much of a conflict.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to, again, echo Alderman Carver's comments and say thank y'all. I think we're the community, and I'm one, and speak for myself, excited to see that this system is continuing to grow from its infancy, and it truly is a nice feather in the city of Starkville and the broader region's hat. We are, for the size community that we have, to have a transportation system such as this is really remarkable. So I appreciate all the effort, and I appreciate the citizens and everybody using this system. And I think one of the things that really is going to improve the efficiency of it is, whether it's the app or improving the GPS technology, so you really know where the bus is and when you can get on it. I think we'll greatly improve the convenience and encourage more people to ride. So I certainly appreciate the direction that we're going. I hope we continue to get good citizen input and continue to put together good grant applications to make sure that we keep this system going, because as the city continues to grow and the county continues to grow, this system is only going to become more important and more integral into the overall transportation plan that we have moving forward. So thank you for all your efforts, and I hope that moving forward that both the city can continue to work not only with in-kind services, but potentially look for other avenues to be able to make the system as successful as we possibly can. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Alderman Dumas, thank you so much on behalf of all of this transportation for our city. And I certainly want to thank you. This was last year, I think it was sometime prior to May, before Mrs. Carlisle left, who was the executive director at Housing Authority. Mm-hmm. And I serve as the city's liaison to that board. And at that time, Housing Authority provided 2 slabs in the area of West Side and Long Street, which is in Ward 7, and also on Sadie Ware Street over there. And you all provided the shelter. I want to personally say thank you so much from me and the Housing Authority commissioners, and certainly Ms. Becky Carlisle and certainly Ms. Amy Jones, who is the executive director there now. Thank you so much.
Well, and thank you for that, because that was typically the city installs those, but I appreciate the Housing Authority stepping up and doing that.
Thank you so much. They supported me on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Well, thank y'all. Then I'll open it up to those in the community. I'm going to stand over here.
Sorry, I'm back again, and I would just like to say, I'm doing transportation and everything, as you can see. I'm in a wheelchair, lost a leg. Okay, transportation for me, from where I live, has not been provided. And that's over in Rolling Hill subdivision. Again, I think we're out in the county. I don't know. I don't know, but I do know we're not in the county, because I do pay y'all high taxes. But I would just like to say, this smart bus, I just got accepted for going different places, and it's coming over. We do have a need. We have a need over in Rolling Hill subdivision, because we have people over there that's unable to get taxi cabs. They're unable. Taxi cabs cost money. We're in a low area to where we need transportations to the grocery store. We need transportation to the store, anywhere we need to go. And we need transportation to come up here and pay our bills. I need transportation getting up that hill right there. I need help getting up that hill. I can't do it myself. Everybody else is working to pay their insurance, and we don't have that. But I would like you to consider, Jeremiah. And I've been calling and I've been working, and I thank some of the people for working with me. They know who they are. I don't have to call their name, but they know who I am, for trying to get assistance. I need assistance. When I get on the bus, I need assistance. I just can't go in the grocery store and pick up some groceries and decide, well, this is all I got to do, and try to get back home. We're providing transportations to the students, but I'm taxpayer. They're here for just a short time. I need transportation on that side of town. The hospital is a full place for me. If I roll my wheelchair up there, it'll take me 2 days to go to the hospital from where I have to go to. And if y'all want to not agree or want to come and see, I live at 89 Natchez, Rolling Hill subdivision. come by and see how much transportation we may need there. But I would just like to say, consider that part of the town. We're cut off at the hospital, but I live Rolling Hills subdivision, and it's a need, great need. So I would just like to say to my aldermen, I told you I don't have one, I got everybody. I would just like to say, we do need transportation. Thank y'all for preparing what you do. Thank you. But you know the students, like I say, students can't get around, they can ride bike. I got one leg, can't ride no bike. Help me, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I recognize?
You may.
Thank you, Ms. Isaac. Alderman Dumas, I want to say thank you for all of your exemplary services with respect to this matter, what you are doing. In regard to Ms. Isaac, I certainly thank you, Ms. Isaac. Alderman Dumas, I did hear the presentation that you are getting into that area over at the Reed Place, which is on the northern end of Reed Road across from the Starkville Mini Storage. And then we're also coming back up on the east side of the fire station between Jackson 39 and North Montgomery. So if you would, please see what is the feasibility, if any, about perhaps, the potential of having some type of routes or pickups, for the Rolling Hills subdivision, if feasible. I know everything's a cost, and your comments did not go unnoticed with the fact that, the city is not having to pay any cash, and we appreciate that, just only having to provide any kind of services. But since we are getting close there, at least we can see what the options are, feasibility. And again, we appreciate what you're doing, and given the fact that we probably traveling down Reed Road, coming from Fire Station 3, going west rather, to the intersection of West Garrett and Reed, taking a left to the Reed Place apartments. That may be a possibility. We may can do it on a trial basis, and then eventually pick up if we have enough riders. But if you would just take a look at that, and again, just something to consider in light of Ms. Isaac's comments, and we can. Just let us know. But thank you for all that you and your department are doing.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. And to both comments, this is the exact reason we've gone down Reed Road.
Yes, sir.
The reason that we looked at Rolling Hills, actually had a star there for quite some time. But one of the requirements from MDOT is that if we have a stop within a certain amount of time, there has to be an accessible route to that stop. Part of that paratransit plan is we do provide door-to-door service, whether we pick you up at your home and take you where you want to. But in the event that we grow so large that we can't provide that service, we will pick you up at your home and take you to the closest shelter, which has to be ADA accessible. And the thing that we struggled with was that along that section of Rolling Hills, so the section of Garrett where we're putting the stop between Jackson and Montgomery, there is a sidewalk. We've got some accessibility availabilities on North Montgomery because of the width of the road and the fact that there is a walking lane. Now, is it perfect? It's not. But the challenge we face on Garrett, or on Reed, no, sorry, I'm getting confused, the old Reed, the new Garrett, the shoulder drops off there pretty quick, and we couldn't determine exactly where the best place to safely stop, pick up on both sides of the road. Absolutely, it is an area where we want to be. We've just got to figure out the best place to do it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you all.
Yes, sir. That is noted.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr.
All
Mayor.
right, good evening to everyone. My name is Alvin Turner. I'm a rider of the Smart Bus. And Chief, I might need a name tag. We have some lawbreakers that if they see Star Police Department, they'll change their mind before they try and be dishonoring to the citizens. Tuesday through Saturday. We have a few problems. At the grocery stores, we have a lawbreakers that will pull up in the section where the bus have to and get out the car and go in the store. that makes it hard on the driver, makes it hard on the disability person, that this person got a car parked in the bus lane. My opinion on that is if you get a tow-away sign, when they come out, they have to find the car. Because it's very hard on a person with a wheelchair. The bus can't get there because someone done parked the car and went in the store. We try to be nice as we can to ask people for ID because we don't want juvenile on the bus and something happens, and then everybody want to blame everybody but themselves. We ask them for ID. Sometimes they get smart, get mad, want to tab the sign, want to tab the shelter, figuring that they're hurting someone. So maybe if we can put a pair of eyes in the shelter, and if they get mad with drive, want to tab something, we'll have them on video. Because it hurt that they're providing for us, and we have people that don't care, about people that's handicapped or not, and that's just some of the day-to-day things that we endure that people, how come we got to have ID? It's on the, it's on the bus. But, some people, they just don't like authority, be told what to do. But to solve the problem with the parking in the bus lane, if we could just get a tow-away sign, because it's very disrespectful that a person would deliberately pull in a plane, get out the car, go in the store, and you got the bus stranded. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor, I be recognized.
You may.
Alderman Doom, I thank you all for everything, but when you leave Long Street, coming back west side, going to Reed Road, the ground was breaking on us, the ground had broken for a sidewalk for there, so you'll have a sidewalk from there, from where the sidewalk stop off from Frontier, it'll take you all the way to Reed Road, so it'll be a sidewalk there from now.
So it'll go all the way from Long Street all the way to Reed?
Right.
North side or south side of the road?
Gonna be on the north side.
North side of the road. Well, that's good to know.
But thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. And I'll just end in saying thanks again to Chief Nichols, too. We have had some, and this goes a little in turn with what Mr. Turner said, we've had some vandalism at some of our shelters. I've contacted he and Alderman Perkins and Alderman Vaughn, and everybody been very receptive to helping us. We're replacing all that glass. It's been ordered. We're waiting on it. And we're not putting glass in. We're putting Lexane. But as a public transit system, we do know that there's individuals that ride it that oftentimes might act a little disorderly. And another part of our growing pain is learning how to deal with that. We've got a driver. We're working with MDOT. We're working with several to figure out how best to handle that. But we're very pleased to say that we've not had any significant issues. The biggest issue is some slight issues at a shelter over in certain parts of the community, but we're getting those solved, and we do appreciate y'all's help. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Alderman.
Thank you, Alderman.
Mr. Mayor,
Vice Mayor.
we've been in session for 95 minutes. Can we take a break?
Can we get through this last public hearing and take a
Yes, sir.
break
That'll be
after that?
great. That'll be great. Thank you.
All right, the next matter before you is a public hearing on the proposed cap loan resolution with the Mississippi Development Authority. Ms. Benson, would you like to introduce this matter?
Yes, sir. I'd like to say, first of all, what an exciting project the transit system is, and it makes it a tough act to follow. But bear with me, I'll be brief. At your January the 17th meeting, you voted to consider a cap loan in the amount of $1 million for water and sewer improvements throughout various parts of the city. We have followed the guidelines of the program, which is to notify John Q. Public of your intent since the sales tax is pledged as collateral for this project. And we have advertised once a week for 4 consecutive weeks in a local newspaper. The requirements of the program state that we need to now accept comments from the public. And I also need to ask if you have received any written comments.
I have not. Have any members of the board received written comments on the proposed cap loan? Any members of the board received written comments? No, Ms. Benson.
Okay. Well, then, it's time to make the final decision as to whether or not you want to move forward with this application.
All right, the actual discussion of the matter is on the docket later in the meeting. This time now is reserved for public comment.
Okay.
Do you wish to hear any public comment at this time?
Sure.
At this time, are there any public comments on the proposed cap loan request? Are there any comments on the proposed cap loan request? Any comments? Any comments? Seeing none, are there any concluding comments by the members of the board? Are there any? Alderman Mayor.
Mayor, could we go ahead and take that up so Ms. Benson will be free to go? Could we amend the agenda to do so?
We can. Without objection, we will reorder the agenda to take what has been reordered as item C under Mayor's business, the consideration of the approval of the funding that the City of Starkville has met all requirements for the cap loan in the amount of $1 million. Discussion.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of the funding that the City of Starkville has, of the fund, is that supposed to be funding? Approve of the funding.
Yes.
Fine.
It would have to be.
To approve of the finding that the City of Starkville has met all requirements for the cap loan application for the Mississippi Development Authority in the total amount of $1 million for the purpose of water and sewer improvements upon the completion of such identified project, any other water and sewer projects as needed as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits?
Ms. Benson, have we met all the requirements that we're supposed to meet for
Yes,
this
sir.
capital?
Any discussion? Any further discussion? Alderman
I
Walker.
just have one. I'm certainly in favor of this, as, again, you all know that we have aging infrastructure all over town in terms of sewer and water, and these are part of projects to get us in line with meeting the EPA mandate where we're having failing sewage systems. The one question I do have, and this is probably for Mr. Kent, the last sentence in this where it says, "in any other water and sewer projects as needed." If we don't expend all of the $1 million in this loan for those EPA projects, I would hope that the any and sewer projects as needed would be something that would be discussed by the board so we can figure out how to expend the remainder of that balance. Thank you, sir.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Saying none, all those in... Alderman Mayor.
Alderman Walker, do you want to add that to the motion?
Yes, please. I'd tag that at the end. Is that that any remaining balance that would come back before the Board of Aldermen for approval of other capital improvement projects?
There's 3 pieces to this, right?
Right.
And so those have been identified and they're approaching that. But if we get those in place, any addition outside those 3.
Correct. Yes, correct.
Mayor, I'd be fine with adding that.
All right, so the proposed amendment by Alderman Walker is to add a rider to the motion that any projects after, what are they coming after?
After the EPA, how would we phrase that?
Any projects after the EPA mandate is satisfied shall come back before the Board of Aldermen for approval.
That That's right. We supplied a list of 3 different
Right.
projects. One of our lift stations, and the other one was sewer collection that was about $260,000. And then the third item we wanted to address dealt with water improvements and fire protection northeast, including roundhouse. That's the 3 projects. So those have already been identified and listed. We go through the project, what's left over after that,
So
we would come back.
those are not all EPA projects then? No, okay.
No,
But those are all listed in the packet?
they were all listed.
All right, the rider will be any projects beyond those listed in the packet shall be brought back before the board for approval. Alderman Walker, is that your proposed amendment?
Yes.
Without objection, seeing no objection, the motion has been so amended. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, it's unanimous. Without objection, I'm going to move to a brief recess. Any objection? Any objections? Seeing none, we'll stand in brief recess. Meeting will now come back to order. The next matter on the agenda are the interviews for applicants for the Starkville County School District Board of Trustees. We have 2 applicants that are eligible. We did have a 3rd applicant, and the statute requires, in order to be eligible to fill one of these seats on the school board, you must be a resident and a qualified elector. The 3rd applicant did not meet that test, so we have 2 eligible applicants this evening, Dr. Deborah Prince and Miss Melissa Luckett. We'll hear the interviews in alphabetical order, so we'll begin with Miss Luckett, and then we'll hear Dr. Prince. Now, this is a public meeting, so I cannot compel anyone to leave the room. When it comes to competitive positions such as this one, or in some cases job interviews that we do at a board meeting, it does indeed make for an awkward setting to give each of the applicants the benefit of hearing what the other applicant says. So I do always invite, as a courtesy, if you feel so inclined, you may feel free to leave while your fellow applicants are interviewing, to give them the courtesy of not having you hear what they may say in the interview. But that is up to you, because this is a public meeting. So at this time, we'll hear first from Ms. Luckett.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to recuse.
All right, Alderman Walker is going to recuse himself from this matter. And Ms. Luckett, you may stand at the podium or have a seat on either side. It is your pleasure. I will give you an opportunity to make any opening comments that you'd like to make. We'll proceed to a question and answer period. And then finally, we'll give you an opportunity to ask any questions or make any concluding comments that you'd like to make. Do you have any questions before we begin? Do you have any opening comments you'd like to make?
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Alderman, Alderwoman. My name, excuse me, good evening. My name is Melissa Luckett, and I am honored for this opportunity to speak to you tonight about my interest to serve as the Starkville-Octopaw Consolidated School District. Try saying that 10 times in a row. Starkville-Octopaw Consolidated School District. With 2 sons in the district, my husband and I are proud supporters and advocates for public education. Our oldest son, Chris Luckett, is a freshman at Starkville High School, and we have a 5th grader at Overstreet Elementary School. I'm a graduate of Mississippi State University with a bachelor's in political science and a master's degree in public policy and administration. I serve as the executive director for the Starkville Foundation for Public Education. I also served in various capacities as program coordinators, one in particular for the city of Starkville, and also I'm currently a project coordinator for Mississippi State University's Research and Curriculum Unit. My husband Paul and I chose public schools for our sons with an awareness that doing so will require our involvement in the schools, but not just for our sons, but for all children. My involvement in the school district includes, I served as PTO, co-president for PTO at Starkville Elementary, where I was a reading tutor for students who struggled to meet the requirement to reach their reading level. This was a great opportunity for me because it allowed me in the classroom and to relieve the teacher who could not give that student that one-on-one extra attention that they needed to push them right over that level for their meeting their reading requirements. This program was a tremendous success and one that I am proud to have had the opportunity to be a part of. I also served as PTO president for Armstrong Middle School. As our boys moved up, our participation in their schools, we moved right on up with them. So as president for Armstrong Middle School, I got to participate in the consolidation process here in Starkville that we're still going through. During this process, I was able to facilitate discussions with parents who had concerns, county parents who had concerns about their kids coming over. There were some just questions, and they just wanted someone to talk with them. So I was prepared at meetings, facilitated by the principal at Armstrong Middle School. He called me in to talk with some of the parents, and I happily did so. That was my contribution to the process of consolidation. Also, I have been involved as a community stakeholder with the superintendent. There have been several community stakeholder meetings that I have had the pleasure of serving on. In these meetings, I have assisted in shaping ideas for the new partnership school that we have coming up. That was an exciting opportunity for me as well. Our school district faces great opportunities ahead. The superintendent search, the partnership school, and we do have remaining consolidation processes that we have to deal with. We also have great challenges to tackle. Funding, transportation. Former Alderman Dumas mentioned tonight about the great things we have going on with the smart bus, and that's wonderful. But as you know, that's pulls some resources from our school district in terms of transportation. So those are ideas, those are some things that we have to put our heads together to figure out how we're going to deal with that. But also just remaining, the closing, another issue that's very important to me is closing the achievement gap in our school district. That is something that I believe is important for us to look at and to address, and I look forward to doing that as a member of the school board. With a background in public policy, program administration, and volunteer working with students, parents, teachers, and administrators of our local schools, I'm confident in my ability to help us navigate through these challenges and opportunities. My goal as a board member would be to listen, to ensure that our policies reflect the best interests of our students, faculty, and staff, and to see that we are operating within those guidelines. I am passionate about public education. I'm passionate about our community, and I'm passionate about the future of our children. I welcome the opportunity to continue serving our community by being a member of the Starkville School Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Luckett. I'll begin with the questions, and then I'll open the floor to questions from the members of the board. First, can you elaborate on your past experiences that you feel have prepared you for this position?
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor. I think that what I bring unique to this position is my direct involvement in the school district. There is no shortage of parents who have participated in our schools, and I think you can find a direct correlation between a successful school district and high parental involvement. And Starkville is fortunate to have that, particularly in our lower schools at Starkville Elementary. I started out right off the bat. When our children entered school, my husband and I both began working right alongside those students and our children. The idea was that, I can help my children. I can be in the school and I can help them with their homework. I can make sure that they're getting their work done. But if the child next to them is struggling, wouldn't it make sense that I help that child as well? Because that also helps my children and your children as well. So I started out, as I said earlier, as a reading tutor. But one of the other things that I really enjoyed about being at Sudeth was being over the used book fair. That was a tremendous blessing for me because we got the community involved to donate about 3,000 books for children to be able to take free of charge to their homes, to not only that child, but also their siblings. Some of my other participation, some of the other things that qualify me, aside from just being involved in the schools, my determination and passion for service. I am keen on public policy. I'm keen on how one aspect of policy affects other aspects. I firmly believe that the elements of our society, many of the elements of our society can be addressed in addressing education or the lack thereof. So I think that what I bring to this position, what I would bring to this position, is my ability to work well with the current board members in discussing issues, policy, listening to people. I would bring the ability to be able to listen to the community, the stakeholders of the community, parents, teachers. I already have relationships with teachers, administrators, as I have worked with them over the years. And I can bring that to the board with a listening ear and make sound decisions towards policies.
What do you feel the biggest challenge that our district currently faces, and what would you do to resolve it?
Well, I think the biggest challenge would be the same as any district right now, Mr. Mayor, and that would be funding. Right now, we're looking at the ed bill and what that's going to mean for not only our school district, but all others in the state of Mississippi. As a board member, I would have to make decisions based on the policies of the board. So, how would I address, is your question, how would I address that issue of the funding? I think as a board member, I think the most important thing would be who do you hire to facilitate the resources that you have? We have very little control, we would have very little control over what the legislature decides to do. But the school board has direct control over who they choose to facilitate those resources that the state gives us. And so I think we would have to look for someone with a keen interest on budget and looking for innovative ways of getting done what needs to get done without costing too much money. And there are things you can do. You don't have to spend money for everything that you need to get done. And so I think, to answer your question, the way that I would address funding as a school board member would be within the confines of what I could do, which is what they're doing now, looking for a superintendent who has a record of being fiscally responsible, but also being innovative in how they address issues.
Thank you, Ms. Luckett.
You're welcome.
Questions from the members of the board? Any questions from the members of the board? Are there any questions from the members of the board? Alderman Wynn.
Ms. Luckett, if you will you take your seat for me? Sure. Okay, take a seat on it. Thank you. And Chief Nichols, in advance, will you give Ms. Luckett one of those sheets that I have tendered to you? And Mr. Clemens, will you be on standby in the event that I'll need you to pull that down for me? That'll be for later on. The superintendent is the top executive in the school district. The superintendent implements the school board's vision by making day-to-day decisions about educational programs, spending, staff, and facilities. The superintendent hires, supervises, and manages central staff and principals. It is my belief that longevity and stability are important in the role of the superintendent for the Starkville Hall Consolidated School District. Do you think longevity and stability are important in the role of superintendent for the school district here? If yes, explain. If no, explain.
Let me make sure I understand your question. Do I believe that longevity and stability is important for the superintendent of Oktibbeha County, Starkville, Oktibbeha County? I believe that as a school board member, when you hire someone, you would be looking for someone that would deliver what you need for your school district. You would need to look at the needs of your school district and the applications that you have. Ideally, as a school board member, you would hope that you receive numerous applications. I think in this superintendent search we've had, I would assume, a lot to choose from, and ideally that is what you would want. So I would think that the school board goes into the process with an idea of what they're looking for and what they need for their district. They know the issues for our school district. We know that aside from funding that all other districts deal with, that we have an achievement gap that we need to address, that we have transportation issues that we need to address. We have a partnership school coming up. We have consolidation issues. I would think that the school board knows all of these things when they're looking at a candidate. And I would not think that longevity or stability would be an issue when they're hiring someone, because if you're applying for a job, then just like the employer or the potential employee is thinking that it's going to be something long-term and stable. So I think the best answer to your question is the school board would seek the candidate based on their needs for their school district. And I would hope that they would look at that track record. And that is something that I would do as a school board member. I would look at a track record for that person and their previous jobs, their job history, which is what any employer does, or potential employer does, look at the job history and what they've done in the past. So I think it would be important for them to look at all those aspects.
Thank you so much. I formulated that question because when we were about to advertise for the position, former superintendent of the Oktibbeha County School District, Dr. Conley, appeared before us, and he gave us a handout, and it had all of the tenures of the superintendents that have served in our district. And here lately, none of them are staying very long with us. And as you've stated tonight, the challenges before our school district are very complex. It is imperative that our school board members look at someone who will be with us for the long term. My next question is, the Mississippi Department of Education on July 2014, 2016 made public the rating for Starkville School District, along with many other school districts throughout the state. The Starkville Consolidated School District received a rating of C. Mr. Clemens, will you please pull that information up for me? Is there any way that we can enlarge that, Mr. Clemens? Mrs. Luckett, you have before you that information that I have up there, and I'll go on with my question that I have for you. Before we get to that, I'm of the belief that this is unacceptable for a city and a county that in my home, just a minute. I'm of the belief that this is unacceptable for a city and county that is home to one of the greatest educational institutions, meaning Mississippi State, to be in our backyard, but yet we have a rating of our C. Are you concerned that the school district is rated a C by the Mississippi Department of Education? If yes, why? Or if your response is no, please explain. I have that information up there. Ward Stewart received a grade of a B. West Elementary received a grade of a C. Henderson Intermediate School received a grade of C. Armstrong is a D. East Elementary received an F for failure, and Starkville High received a B.
And I'm sorry, I'll just have to repeat your question so that I'm
Okay.
clear on what you're asking me. As a school board member, would I be concerned with this grade, or just as a parent now currently, would I be concerned with
Thank you for asking that. As a parent, certainly, I don't think I need to answer that. Certainly, you should be concerned because our school district is rated as a C. But I want you to pretend that you're a board member. Would you be concerned about that?
Well, I would have to answer that, Alderwoman Nguyen, by stating that knowing there's some information that I do know, and that is our ratings are based on testing that was done at some point and then wasn't done at another point, or wasn't counted at another point. And I think our district improved. And so from a standpoint of a school board member or a potential school board member, I would not be alarmed at this, but I would be in discussion, or I would be in touch with the administrators and hopefully have a dialogue with them and understand what I just said to you, is that I know that there's information that says why we have this rating. And as a potential school board member, I would have those conversations with the administrators that the school board hires, the superintendent or approves the hiring of the principals for these particular schools. I think there's a lot that goes into these grades. I also think there's a lot, just like there's a lot that goes into statistics and numbers. So I would not run out the house with my hair on fire, so to speak, but as a school board member, I think it would be important to stay in constant contact with the people that you hire, because the school board will be responsible or is responsible for hiring competent individuals. And I would expect nothing less, and I think that is what they're doing to the best of their ability. And they have to have a trust of those that they hire, to know that they are doing the job that they were hired to do. So to answer your question, my response to this report as a school board member would be to just have a dialogue, to have already had a dialogue going with those in charge of our schools to understand where we are and where we're going.
If you will, take a look at that list that I have you. The Columbus Municipal School District received a letter grade of a D. Several of their schools received, one received a B, several Ds, and there's an F. Starkville Schools, one B, two Bs, several Cs, a D, and then there's an F. Then there's Lowndes County School District that received a B overall. Mr. Clemens, is it possible that you can pull that up for me? There are several Bs, there are several Cs, and of course there's an F for the Lowndes County School District. So when you compare those school districts, all three of them have an F. What stands out about that the most to you?
I'm not certain
Okay.
where you're going.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Okay.
All three of those school districts, Columbus Municipal has an F on there, Columbus Middle School, F, Starkville Activity Hall School District, East Elementary, F, and in Lowndes County School District, that's West Lowndes High School has an F. You look at all three of those F for all three of those schools, what's standing out to you the most? Have you noticed anything?
Well, the only thing that I can see from here is that the Fs are spread throughout the different schools, from elementary to high school to middle school.
Okay. Now, let me put this in. because certainly I know that you're not an educator. If you look at all of those, the Columbus Middle School has an F. The Columbus High School has an F. But what is troubling and an educator would pick up, the Starkville Octavia House School District has an F at the elementary level. Any teacher or any principal will tell you, when there's failure at the elementary level, the foundation is just like the foundation of a home. Once it's cracked, the house doesn't become any good, because you know that a cracked foundation can't support a home. Having said that, when they fail at this early, it becomes more and more challenging for them. So if a third grader is not thriving in mathematics, we'll say, it becomes very challenging to them once they pass to fourth grade, because if he or she has not learned their multiplication facts, when they get to fourth grade, they can't do the complex division problems and solve those complex multiplication problems. So I said all of that to say to you, this would be troubling to anyone that's looking at it, because you don't want failure when they're in the elementary and those primary grades. Okay? That is it.
I'm sorry, can I respond
Yes.
to that?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, and I appreciate your passion for those grades there. However, I would just add that as a school board member, that we're talking about Starkville. So as a school board member for Starkville, I don't think, let me say it this way. I think that anyone with a vested interest in our community can serve, who has been a part of our community, who has devoted time in our schools. I don't know that it is a requirement to have an extensive background in education. I think there are things you can learn, and I think there are things you are given. And I have been given the passion to serve, and I have shown that throughout my years here in Starkville already, not only with the school district, but with the city of Starkville. I have been serving, and I have the ability to learn whatever I need to learn when I'm on that board. And so, and let me just say this, that I do know that you can have a board of all PhDs and have a failing school district. You can have a board of non-PhDs and have a thriving school district. So I think what counts the most is, do you have people that really care about our students? And can you identify others and pull them in as well? And so when you're making a consideration tonight, I hope that is part of the consideration.
Thank you so much. May I yield the floor at this time?
Alderman Carver.
With a perfect view of the education system, I guess in a perfect world, what would be the top one or two changes? If you could, I know you get in, if you were appointed tonight, there would be certain restrictions and financial restrictions, but what, I mean, from your observation so far, what is the one or two things that we can improve as a school district? Is it parent participation, or is it maybe the formation of this partnership school, or what do you think is the top one or two things you'd like to see done? Not realistically, it may not be something you can do, but what would it take?
I would, as I have been, thank you, that's a great question. As I have been discussing, have had many conversations about education, different types of education throughout Mississippi, how other people are doing it, and throughout the country as well. And what I hear over and over again is just an out-of-the-box way of thinking about how to do education. I think if we have fresh ideas, if we can go and look at what others are doing that are similar to our town, similar makeups of our town and what they're doing that works for them. We don't, a lot of times we don't have to leave out of our own backyard. We can just look around in Starkville and see the resources that we have that we're not taking advantage of. And so I think, to answer your question, one of the main thing that I would do is to figure out what's working in other places that look like us and how we can implement those things here.
Thank you. And thank you for putting your name in the hat.
Any further questions? Any further questions from the members of the board? Any further questions? Seeing none, Ms. Luckett, do you have any questions for us or any concluding comments that you'd like to make?
I don't, thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Luckett, if you don't mind, could you tell Dr. Prince that it's time for her interview? And again, I cannot compel you to leave the room, but should you wish to extend the courtesy to Dr. Prince, then it would be much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clemens.
And Dr. Prince, you may speak from the podium, or you may be seated at either table and speak. They are all mic'd. It is your pleasure.
I'll speak standing.
All right, let me offer a brief overview of the process, and then I'm going to turn the floor over to you to make any introductory comments you'd like to make. So we'll begin with introductory comments, and we'll proceed with a question and answer period from me and the members of the board. And finally, we'll offer you an opportunity to ask any questions you may have of us and also make any concluding comments that you'd like to make. Do you have any questions before we begin?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. You may now proceed with any introductory comments you'd like to make.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Board of Aldermen. My name is Deborah Prince. For the last 40 plus years, I've been a resident of Starkville. I graduated from Starkville High School. I had 2 children graduate from Starkville High School, and I have a 6-year-old currently attending Armstrong. For the last 30 plus years, I've been in a classroom in some form or capacity as the teacher, either in the elementary school or at the university. I am a lifelong learner, and I encourage all that I come in contact with to be lifelong learners. I believe that I have a great deal to offer the school district as we continue to try to improve.
Thank you, Dr. Prince. Could you elaborate on any past experiences you've had that you feel prepare you for this position?
Okay, prepare me for this position. Well, I spent approximately 13 years in the public school classroom as a teacher. I taught special education in Texas for about 3 years, and then came to the Starkville School District, and I taught there for about 11 years. Since I have been at Mississippi State, I started at Mississippi State in 1999, and I was fortunate enough to move right into an educational research position. So since 1999, I've been teaching educational research courses at Mississippi State. So research plays a great deal in my day-to-day job. In addition to teaching research classes, I've had the privilege of working with several doctoral students working on their dissertations and completing research in educational administration. I've served as tutors for students throughout the grade levels. I served as a tutor on a voluntary basis for college students. I've spent the last 20 plus years of my life researching the impact poverty has on the well-being and education of children, and I can, that's an area that I'm very comfortable in addressing the needs that fit our school district. There's too much evidence out there for us to have to reinvent any wheels to improve the status of education in our community.
And Dr. Prince, what would you identify as the biggest challenge that our district currently faces, and what would you do to address it?
The biggest challenge that our district currently faces is that of academic achievement. And that's a challenge for any school district, regardless of how you are performing, because we can always do better. The most current rating for the Starkville, Oktibbeha County School District was a rating of C. Oktibbeha County and Starkville are not average, and we should not be satisfied with average. So academic achievement has to be our greatest challenge right now. For as long as I can remember, when I graduated from Starkville High School in 1981, so at least back there, the district has always been an excellent district for some students. The best teachers I have ever had were teachers at Starkville High School. Mr. Alfred Perkins, Myrtle, Methel Hodges. Better than any teacher I had in California, Texas, anywhere. So I know the district has great teachers, but yet we still have too many children failing to excel in our school district. We have students that have the highest honors academically with any student in the nation. Our students can compete with anyone. Couple that with the fact that we are a C-rated school lets us know that we have many children that are not doing well in our system. How would I address that? There's, like I said, a lot of evidence out there, and they call it 90-90-90 schools. The schools are 90% minority, 90% low income, and 90% of the students meet or exceed standards. There are plenty of schools out there that have every reason to come up with an excuse not to be successful, and they are successful. We won't have to reinvent any wheels. What I would like to see done is more measurement. If you don't measure it, it doesn't matter. And once you set those standards, you have to hold people accountable for meeting standards. But we all have to set those high standards for all of our students. We have to measure it, and we have to keep track of what's going on.
Thank you, Dr. Prince. At this time, the floor is open for questions from the members of the board. Alderman Carver.
First of all, thank you for putting your name in your hat. Very qualified. I was going to say just that 90-90-90 school. What is the difference? What is it between that and a school district that may have 90% low income, 90% minority that doesn't have a 90% passing rate?
There are a lot of things that can account for that. One of the biggest things that the research tells us over and over and over again, those successful 90-90-90 schools don't accept excuses. A lot of times we take excuses for how our children come to us as the reason for us not doing this or doing that. But don't you know, these parents are sending us the best child that they have. If they had a better child, they would send it to us. So while they're not being successful, we have to focus more on not how they come to us, but we have to focus on our reaction to how they come with us. So probably the thing they would have in common is no excuses.
Okay. In a utopian world, if there were no financial restrictions, if you were appointed, and obviously this is not maybe real world, but if in a perfect world...
I call it a Walgreens kind of world.
What would be your one or two things that you'd like to see maybe changed about our district, or things that we can improve on if you had no restrictions?
No restrictions at
No,
all?
ma'am.
The first thing is that I would like to guarantee that every child had a well-qualified teacher that was compassionate, that loved children. Because when you love somebody, regardless of what it is you have to do, you'll figure it out when you love someone. So every child would have a loving and qualified teacher. That would be the first thing I would do. The second thing I would do is that I would get us all together and we would get on one accord. Our school district ought to be a shining star for every citizen in this county. We should all be proud of our school district. We should all feel that we have something to offer our school district. The third thing is that we would all have a crash course in educational accountability. We have data running out of our ears. Data's everywhere. So we're data rich, but we're information poor because we're not using that data to get the information that we need to improve things. So in a Walgreens or perfect kind of world, those are 3 things that I would start off with.
Thank you.
Further questions from the members of the board? Alderman Wynn.
Dr. Prince, thank you. This is what I like that you said. A C is average. We shouldn't settle for average. When you look at Rankin County and some of the other school districts over the state that are thriving, a C is just unacceptable. Unacceptable. So I agree with you in that. And I noticed that you said about passion for our students. You know this and I know this. Every student doesn't have a bed at home. Every student doesn't have a mama and a daddy at home. Everybody's background is a little different. Every student is not the professor from Mississippi State. Mom may not be working. I said all of this to say this, and I'm going to share this story openly. When I taught reading at 3rd grade, I can remember starting school one year. And Miss Jefferson used to always laugh, and she would always say, "Wynn, you are better with the children that are the slower learners." And what I learned about myself, I didn't like students that challenged me because I like to see the results of my labor at the end of the week or at the end of 6 weeks. And when you get little gifted students, maybe you don't necessarily see that. And I had these students, and they just didn't get it, and they didn't have assistance at home. And I can remember the reading facilitator telling me, "Why are you beating yourself up? Maybe they're just never going to be ready." I didn't believe that. They could not remember to start a sentence off with a capital letter. They couldn't remember any punctuation, and there are 3 kinds: a period, a question mark, and an explanation. I went home that weekend, Dr. Prince, because I was bound and determined that I was not going to be defeated, and I was not going to fail the students that were in the room with me. And I'll tell you where one of them is in a little while. I invited her to come by my room that Monday after I got my game plan. You know how we go home on the weekend and you work on those lessons. That Monday morning, I was ready. When she came into my room about 9:45 for my little language arts and my reading lesson, I asked her to sit back there at my desk. And my students were all in the room. And I went to the door because 3rd graders are kind of curious. I said, "Y'all, I got something to tell you." And I went to the door and I looked down the hall both ways. And they were like, "Miss Wynn, what's going on?" And I came back and I said, "Let me ask you something. Y'all heard about these boyfriends and girlfriends running around?" And they were like, "Yeah, you know, so-and-so." I say, "Stop. I don't want to hear about Mick G and somebody else going together. But let me tell you about the boyfriend that I know." And I got to the board and I told them his name was Colby, capital letter. And they thought that was so fun. "Colby, capital letter?" I said, "His name is Colby, capital letter. And he got 3 girlfriends." I say, "Now, in the perfect world, a man doesn't have 3 girlfriends, but Colby, capital letter, has 3 girlfriends. He has Polly, period, who makes a statement. She doesn't ask a question. He has Ellie, explanation, that he takes around with him because she's exciting. And then he has Queely, question mark. And I had every word that you could ask a question. Do you know, Dr. Prince, to this day, and I'm going to stand on the mountaintop and say it, A.J. Brown, who is up there at Ole Miss, remembered that, and he was a senior when Chief Nichols invited me to the park. And he said, "Miss Wynn, you still over there at 3rd grade teaching about Colby, capital letter?" And he was a senior at Starkville High School last year. So that tells me that we have to find a way to get through to our students. Now, Dr. Prince, I've gone off course, but will you take your seat for me for a moment? But I just had to share that story. Will you take a seat over there for me, if you don't mind? I knew you could relate to that story because that's what speaks to passion, and we don't settle for a C. The superintendent is the top executive in the school district. The superintendent implements the school board's vision by making day-to-day decisions about educational programs, spending, staff, and facilities. The superintendent hires, supervises, and manages central staff and principals. It is my belief that longevity and stability are important in the role of the superintendent for the Starkville Octavia Hall Consolidated School District. Do you think longevity and stability are important in the role of the superintendent for the Starkville Octavia Hall Consolidated School District? If yes, explain.
Most definitely, when we get the right superintendent. Because of the wrong superintendent in there, I don't want longevity for that. But when we get the right person in there, longevity is essential. Longevity has been tied, the longevity of the superintendent of the school board has been tied as one of the predictors of how well students will do in that district. We need longevity because we can't continue to keep starting off over. Every superintendent comes in with their own vision. And so we're changing up when we change superintendents. Many times we don't see the effect of whatever programs or interventions we're conducting is because we don't stick with it long enough. We're working on it for a minute and then something else comes up and we trash that and go to something else. We need a superintendent to stay here for a while that has a vision that we can grow with. We cannot afford to keep starting over and over again. Our superintendent should be a very visible and meaningful part of our community. Our community members have to feel as if the superintendent is vested in our community right here and is not passing through. That's going to build and open lines of communication and trust. I mean, I think at the bare minimum, we have to have trust because trust is going to build more on our team. And we can't reshape our team and expect people to continue to trust different people every other year, every 2 years. So I think the next superintendent of the Starkville Consolidated School District should be someone that is looking to stay here for an extended amount of time.
Okay. Thank you. Chief, if you will, there's one before her, but will you give Dr. Prince that? Mr. Clemens, I'm not going to have you to pull that up. That's fine because she'll use that one. The Mississippi Department of Education accountability results for 2015 and 2016 are listed before you. You see the Columbus Municipal School District overall with a D. You see the Starkville House School District overall with a C. And then there's a Lowndes County School District with an overall of a B. But if you notice, each one of those school districts has an F for failure. What about those, if you look at all three of those, what stands out the most to you?
I look at the 3 Fs.
In each school.
I would have to say that the F for Columbus and Lowndes County are at the secondary level, and our F is at the elementary level.
Dr. Prince, thank you so much. Now, you picked up on that because your background is in education. Tell me this. That F at the elementary level, can that hurt a school district?
That hurts a school district greatly. Generally, you know, when kids first start school, it's like the best. You have more parental involvement. You have more excited kids that still love their teachers. That elementary level, your window of opportunity is as large as it'll ever get. Generally, what we see is that the differences between children that are going to excel and those that are not going to excel, the gap between their achievement increases the longer they're in school. So an F at the elementary level tells me that gap is already larger than it needs to be, and it's going to continue to grow. And, you know, if success builds success, failure builds failure. And after you fail at something for so long, after most people fail at something for so long, they'll give up. We can't afford to let our children give up at the elementary level. The window of opportunity is as large now at the elementary level as it will ever be. And that's, I mean, it's really sad.
Dr. Prince, I always say that our children are a precious resource and an asset for us. And I always look at it like this. I always want to know that a child has been educated, so that when I'm in the nursing home and my name is Miss Wynn, that he or she doesn't give me Miss Williams or moxicillin because I'm highly allergic to it. So every one of us in this room, we have an interest in our children because they can make a mistake and cost us our lives, and it's important that they be educated in every source. And you know, I've got to say this, because Starkville School District has, I'm certain, some of the finest teachers. But back in the day, and I'm a little bit younger than you are, there was our Dr. Quickie, and there was Miss Hood, Miss Rosella Perkins Evans. There was Dr. Conley, Miss O.C. Burks. There was Miss Brenda O'Bonner. There was Mr. Alfred Perkins and Miss Lusk. And then there was Miss Sophie Nichols. Those are some of the legends in our district that shaped some of us. And there are some teachers in our district tonight that I believe in wholeheartedly want to do the same thing. Thank you so much, and I yield the floor, Mr. Mayor.
Are there any further questions from the members of the board? Any further questions? Any further questions? Seeing none, Dr. Prince, do you have any questions for us or any concluding comments that you'd like to make?
The only concluding comment is that personally, professionally, I'm at a point now where I can serve our community in a very important manner, and I cannot think of any endeavor that's more important than the school district. I know a part of your position is economic development. Without a good school district, there is no economic development. And I'm here as working along with you to improve the level of education in our community that will not only improve the lives of our citizens, but it'll bring in economics to our community. And that's about it.
Thank you, Dr. Prince. Mr. Sanders, could you invite Ms. Luckett back in? All right, we're going to move now into the consideration of the appointment of a school board member. Prior to opening the floor for discussion, I'm going to make some comments of my own. First, let me say thank you very much to both of our applicants. There is nothing at all easy about this process, and you both performed admirably in the process. What strikes me as I read both your written materials and as I listen to your presentation is any district in this state would be lucky to have both of you. You consider your backgrounds, between the two of you, you have 3 advanced degrees. And you have extensive experience in education research, public policy, but you also have a wealth of practical experience. Dr. Prince was a classroom teacher for 13 years, and Ms. Luckett has spent the last decade as one of the leaders in the district's parent-teacher organization and also the Starkville Foundation for Public Education. So I can say this beyond a shadow of a doubt. The only way I vote in this process is if there is a tie. So my opinions may have no bearing on the process. And if that is the case, I will leave here satisfied no matter what of you gets appointed, that our school district is in good hands. But that being said, since with Alderman Walker's recusal, we are down to a 6-person board, there is a very real chance that I might have to break a tie. And I want to tell you at the outset how I will vote if I break a tie. If indeed my vote becomes necessary, I will cast my vote for Ms. Luckett. And my reasoning is this. Ms. Luckett has been integrally involved for the past several years in the before, during, and now after process of school consolidation and the construction of the partnership school. With the recent loss of Mr. Miles and now Ms. Turner, I believe this board needs continuity of experience that have been through this process, which is the biggest issue that our district has taken on in a generation from beginning to end. So for that reason, if I am called upon to vote, I will cast my vote for Ms. Luckett. That being said, the floor is now open for discussion for the board. Alderman Nguyen.
Mayor, I have a motion and I'll be putting it on the floor. It's time. Move to appoint Dr. Deborah Prince to the Starkville County School District Board of Trustees for a term to begin March 3rd, 2017.
Motion has been made by Alderman Nguyen to appoint Dr. Deborah Prince to the Starkville Consolidated School District Board of Trustees for a term to begin March 1st? March 1st, 2017. Alderman Nguyen, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Perkins. Alderman Nguyen, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, I do not.
Discussion. Any further discussion from the members of the board? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of Alderman Nguyen's motion to appoint Dr. Prince, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. The vote is 3 in favor and 3 against. That means I will cast a tie-breaking vote, and I vote nay. We'll move back into discussion on the matter as a whole, discussion on the appointment of a school board member.
Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Melissa Luckett to the Starkville Consolidated School Board.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to appoint Melissa Luckett to the Starkville Consolidated School District Board of Trustees for a term beginning on March 1st, 2017. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir. Mayor, are we sure that's the right date?
I'm not sure if it's the first or not. Do you want to check the statute? March 3rd is on the packet.
Term commences on the first Saturday of March.
So do you want to just say first Saturday?
Yes.
Motion is to appoint Melissa Luckett to the Starkville Consolidated School District Board of Trustees for a term commencing on the first Saturday of March 2017. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion? Yes. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
Discussion. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Alderman Maynard's motion, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. The vote is 3 in favor and 3 against. That leaves me to break the tie. I vote yea. So the motion carries and Melissa Luckett is appointed to the school board. The next matter on the agenda is a report on the ADA transition plan at McKee Park and Mine Creek Park. Mr. Peters.
He went around and talked to me. Oh, yes. Yeah, I have that. I'll talk about that when you're.
Mayor, board. This, our first phase for our part of our ADA transition program. We're going to start at McKee Park. This is the current park that we have. You see in this area, we want to come in with, first step is put ADA swings there, but there's no border around and no ramps. So this is the plan how it should look. You see there's a entrance and exit ramp there. 2 swings here are the same in that bay. 2 swings in there are the same. And over here with your ADA swings, they have to be the same. You can't mix them up. They have to be the same swing in each bay. This area over here, there's nothing right now, but we want to get with some of the pilot club or someone to put an instrument or something that's stimulation for brain stimulation or something of that nature that they have over at the music trail. Also, there's border that has to go in before we can put the ADA and engineered wood fiber. It's the only type of mulch that can go under, surfacing, I'm sorry, that can go under our ADA swings that we're putting in here. On the other side, near the sidewalk, there's also an entrance and exit ramp that wheelchair can roll up directly to the swing and use at that time. That is the only part right now that would have those ramps in this first phase. The cost of that would be $10,014.91. That is to put in the borders, the right fiber, and the swings, and the ramps. For that project.
What kind of subflooring and flooring is that? Is it a?
It's in ADA engineered wood fiber. It's the only one approved by the Park and Recreation Board, National Board. Regular mulch cannot be used if they're in ADA equipment that would be there. And this engineered fiber is not to prevent long breaks or anything like that. It's just to prevent head injuries.
Alderman Mayor, and also allows wheelchairs to roll.
Right. Wheelchairs can roll on it. The other one that would be there would be the rubberized fiber. We don't want to get into that first. Over at our Moncrief Park, because the letter we received had interest in swings there, but at this time, this is the current at Moncrief. There's no entrance. That's not the correct fiber for ADA. Wheelchairs cannot roll on it. Those equipment that are back there and all the way on the hill would have to be removed. Some of those are older than most of us in here. With the swings will come down from off of the hill, so someone who is in a wheelchair can barely see the ramp there, can exit onto. And you see here on those play equipment, the platforms are really low, so they can roll the wheelchair up to the platform, get on the platform, and use those equipment. Also, would it be an engineered wood fiber, they can roll over to the swings, which would be right here. Again, you see there's swings in each bay, but you cannot mix up the swings. They have to be the same in each bay. If they're ADA swings, they have to be in the same bay. That's toddler swings and then regular in the bay. Now, this project will be a complete makeover. It's a little higher. It's coming in about $34,000 for this project. Next. This is something we have to get. One of our major concerns that is I would say, really high priority. Our water fountain. We have, at this time, we currently do not have a wheelchair roll-up water fountain. Our water fountain at the Sportsplex, at the adult tower, we're trying to restore those. They're older fountains. maintenance director is trying to restore those. If by chance he cannot restore them, we want to come in with a fountain that has wheelchair accessibility. On our youth field, we need to put one that has wheelchair accessibility that can go on there. At McKee Park, those fountains do work, but we do not have one that's wheelchair accessible.
All those fountains work now?
At McKee Park.
What about up there at the adult tower?
No, that's what we're talking about. We need to, Trent is trying to see if he can restore some of those. If not, when we replace, we need to replace with one like this. We need to put one fountain at West Side Track and West Side Pavilion. But when we do, it will be one that is ADA accessible. This cost for that, just the fountain itself, is $1,246 for those fountains. And that's just phase one of our transition.
Any further questions or comments for Mr. Peters on that matter?
Thank you so much for your presentation, Mr. Peters.
Thank you very much. Just hang right there.
The next matter before you is a consideration and approval of the installation of commercial ADA adaptive swings at Moncrief and McKee Park. No cost to the city.
Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
Mayor, in moving forward with this, the junior auxiliary has, for years, been heavily involved in programs at the parks and working toward that. Jordan Ramsey serves on the executive board of the junior auxiliary, and they are donating 2 commercial ADA adaptive swings for installation at either Moncrief or McKee Parks as part of this ADA adaptation of the play facilities. Ms. Ramsey has a letter that's in our packet, but it talks about their integral involvement with the T.K. Martin Center on campus and other areas providing enrichment activities for preschool-age children with disabilities. So we're very excited, or I'm very excited, that the fact that JA is donating these swings, and look forward to having those installed at one of the parks, since they have to be installed together. And just really thankful for Ms. Ramsey and for JA for doing that. And Mayor, I'd make a motion that we approve accepting these swings and approve the installation of the swings at either Moncrief or McKee Parks.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of the installation of commercial ADA adaptive swings at Moncrief and McKee Park at no cost to the city as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merit?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is consideration of PT 1705.
Mr. Sanders, you ready to proceed? Mr. Sanders?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Corbin, you want to move forward? You recognize.
This is a request by Jerry McBride for preliminary plat approval for a 53-lot subdivision on the south side of Academy Road, plus or minus .22 miles west of the intersection of Academy Road and South Montgomery Street. The subdivision consists of 53 lots on plus or minus 9.77 acres in an R3A zone. The subdivision has a gross acreage of plus or minus 9.77 acres with a total of 53 parcels. The gross density is 5.42 units per acre. Existing and proposed easements and dedications are shown on the plat. Sidewalks will be required along all existing and proposed roadway frontages that do not have existing sidewalks. And one of the things that came up in planning and zoning is whether or not a buffer requirement would be required. And on the eastern and southern portions of the property where the R3A abut R1 zoning, a 20-foot buffer would be required.
Mr. Sanders, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, sir, I do not. But I'm here to answer any questions that the board may have.
Is there any discussion by any member of the board? Alderman Walker, you recognize.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Yes, sir.
One, we're excited that this plan is going to begin to move forward. A couple questions just to clarify on the plat. Mr. City Engineer, we have a 53 lot subdivision, what looks like potentially a new road that right now dead ends on the southeastern part of the property, with the potential presumably to connect at some point in the future to an additional subdivision. With that, with the size of this subdivision and the number of lots that we have here on a two-lane local road that services that functions more like a collector road in that sense. Do you have an opinion on whether or not a traffic study is warranted in this regard?
Thank you, Alderman. And yeah, to your earlier point, obviously this roadway has changed over the last 20 or 25 years. You know, it was intentionally probably built more like a rural type roadway section, no curb and gutter, virtually no shoulder in most of the places. It does have adequate width, but over time, as the commercial developments have occurred along Academy Road, the traffic has increased as well. So I do think it would be prudent to at least evaluate if a left turn would be warranted based on the typical traffic and transportation guidelines, especially on that eastern entrance, which, you know, we aren't for sure right now, but most likely is also going to have a commercial driveway cut off of it for the new convenience store / shopping area, and that it does access a large undeveloped tract to the south. So I do believe that would probably be a primary left turning movement type situation, and I do think it would be beneficial to understand if a left turn would be warranted there day one when this subdivision is constructed.
Thank you. I have one other thing that I just noticed on the plat. If you look into, so you see the first set of lots that are just south of Academy Road, and you see the next set of lots. That's where the Blue Line Creek is located. Thank you. That shows on the plat is existing ditch. That is a Blue Line Creek that the Corps of Engineers, if I'm correct, required that 50-foot buffer. Is that accurate?
That is all accurate, and also a section 404 permit would be required by the Corps.
Right. So I just think call it semantics, if you will. But with that being identified as a blue line stream by the government, I would like to see on the plat that gets updated and is referred to as either existing stream or existing creek, as opposed to ditch, since that is in fact a blue line stream there. Just to clean that up a little bit. And to furthermore, because this is where it does become blue line, it is the headwater of Hollis Creek, and we've already had discussion tonight about what that looks like. And in this case, it is mandated by the Corps of Engineers that they have that 50-foot drainage easement that to hopefully maintain the functioning of that creek system, so we reduce downstream flooding and hopefully downstream pollution as well. So the two comments that I have is I would certainly approve this tonight, make a motion to approve, but at the same time, like to clean up that language on the plat to say existing creek or existing stream, whatever is appropriate. I don't believe that stream has a name at that point, other than I would say it is clearly a reach of Hollis Creek. And so however we deem that as opposed to being a ditch. And I would like to tag that in consultation with the city engineer, that we look at the options of whether a full-blown traffic engineering study is needed to determine if there is a left-hand turn signal or a left-hand turn lane needed off of what is labeled Academy Hill Circle.
Are you going to have to boil that last part down for me a little bit?
Yep. So make a motion to approve preliminary plat with the change of updating what says existing condition to existing creek or stream. And further traffic analysis is needed by the city engineer and the applicant to determine if what do we want to call it, Edward? Somewhat use right there. Traffic study.
Applicant to provide a traffic analysis study as part of the infrastructure plans.
So the motion is to approve PP 17-05 for preliminary plat approval for a 53-lot subdivision of a 9.77 acre parcel on the south side of Academy Road, plus or minus 0.22 miles west of South Montgomery Street and Academy Road intersection in an R3A zone, as presented with the following changes. The waterway shown on the map should be identified as existing creek or stream, and a traffic analysis study shall be submitted to the city engineer with infrastructure plans. Alderman Walker, is that your motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Maynard. Alderman Walker, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is a request for approval of the claims docket.
Move approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little. Oh, excuse me. Yes. So the next matter on the agenda is an update on the status of property located at 100 East Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. Mr. Sanders.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Board of Aldermen, as you well may know, the property located at 100 East Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive was condemned on May 17, 2016. The board gave the property owner 14 days to remove tenants. That took place on May 31st, 2016. The building was boarded up and chained up by city staff. The owner was given 6 months to correct structural defects and health issues, which did not take place. The ads were placed in the Starkville Daily News for bids for removing the structure, and on February 13th of 2017, there were no bidders. That is the status of the property in the process at this time.
Questions or comments from the members of the board? Any questions or comments from the members of the board? Alderman Mayor.
Can you repeat that one more time? I'm sorry.
The requests for bids were placed in the Starkville Daily News for removal of the structure, and on February the 13th of this year, there were no bidders at the time and place for that bids would be accepted.
Would you have recommendations on where to place those ads to get?
It would be my recommendation that we place another ad in the paper, or 2 ads per state statute, and let the building department work more closely with local contractors to try to encourage them to submit a bid.
Could I add my own thoughts to that recommendation? I think we should wait to advertise it. And the reason I think we should wait to advertise it is if we do receive a bid for this project, Mr. Sanders anticipates it's going to cost over $100,000, and we don't have $100,000 that could be utilized for this project in this budget. Now that being said, the project currently is not posing imminent danger to the community as the water has been shut off. I know it's certainly not desirable to leave it in that condition over the long haul. However, I think to have the ability to pay for a demolition project of this magnitude, it's something that the board needs to consider and put in the budget in the year preceding that. Alderman Vaughn.
If we do the demolition, where is debris going? Who's gonna move all the rubbish? Where is it going? If we do decide to demolition, where's all the rubbish going?
Right now, it'd have to go to Golden Triangle.
Who's gonna pay for it?
If it was our project, we'd be paying for it.
Mr. Mayor, I recognize.
You may.
That's why we need to get this landfill back up. It's been closed ever since September the 20th of 2016, and the taxpayers of the city of Starkville, Mississippi, are demanding for this landfill to be opened back up. It's almost summertime, and this landfill is closed, and it's just ridiculous. It's terrible, and it's a shame. We got a landfill, we got to drive a million miles to get to the landfill. It's going to cost you a ton of money to leave the debris out there. Now, you know, it's no excuse for the landfill to be closed. Drive out to the landfill, closed for business. A big city of Starkville, Mississippi, the home of the Mississippi State University Bulldogs. Go to the landfill. Big sign, closed for business. Got to go to another county. Got to go to Clay County to take your rubbish. It's almost summertime. Springtime is fastly approaching. There is no excuse for the landfill to be closed. This is not intended you, Mr. Sanders. We got to get it open. Now, you know, and all my constituents and others in this city and county are demanding for this landfill to be open, and it never should have been closed in the first place. We can hear reasons from A through Z, but there's no reason that it should have been closed. Got to drive away to Clay County to take a couch or a chair or debris. You know, and my constituents and others in the city cannot afford that. And we're going to have to find imminent ways to get that landfill open, and when we do get it open again, it should never close again, because it should have never been closed in the first place. I yield, Mr. Mayor.
Any further questions? Alderman Vaughn.
I think we should take your advice and hold off this, because we don't have money to do that, Mr. Mayor.
Any further questions or comments from the members of the board? Seeing none, the next matter on the agenda is request for approval of the claims docket.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of the City of Starkville claims docket for all departments, including the Starkville Utilities Department as of February 15, 2017. All as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. By a vote of 5 in favor with 2 against, motion clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is a request for approval of January. Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of January 2017 financial statements as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Carter. Alderman Vaughn, or Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is a consideration of approval for travel. Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of travel for Deputy Clerk LaShonda Wilson to the March 29th through 31st Deputy Clerk training in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and Deputy Clerks Ashley Wigglesworth and Jamaica Smith to the Deputy Clerk training in Pearl, Mississippi, March 1st through 3rd, with advanced travel as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is request for authorization to allow Captain Mark Ballard to attend the FBI Academy in Quantico.
Move approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to authorize Captain Mark Ballard to attend the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia on April 3rd through June 9th, 2017, with advanced travel up to $2,500 as presented. Alderman Vaughn, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is consideration of allowing Corporal Tyler Davis. Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to allow Corporal Tyler Davis and Officer Hunter Brown to attend a 5-day fitness instructor course, which will be held at Shelby County Sheriff's Office Training Academy from May 22nd through 26, 2017, at a total cost of $1,945.05 as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is request for authorization. Nope. I didn't have them on consent.
I move approval, whatever the next.
Next matter on the agenda is Alderman Maynard's made a motion to authorize Chief Frank Nichols and Captain Mark Ballard to attend the 2017 FBI National Academy Mississippi Chapter Spring Conference on March 30th through 31st, 2017 in Pearl, Mississippi, as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. That concludes our open session business, and to my knowledge, there. Okay, you got something. Motion has been made to go into closed session to determine whether there's a need to go into executive session. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded, even though I didn't need one. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion passes. I'll ask the public to vacate the room.